Chapter 207. The Fist Dominator was Divine Fist Len Nua's master. Like the Savage Beast Dominator, the Fist Dominator did not establish his own faction. He was a reclusive dominator. With the appearance of the Fist Dominator, there were now 2 dominators in the entire Nanfeng region. Even so, it was still difficult to find the whereabouts of the demonic cultivators. According to the Dominator's speculations, the demonic cultivators must have mastered an extremely strange concealment technique. Even the Dominators would find it difficult to detect the demonic cultivator's aura. It was no wonder that the demonic cultivators could hide in the heavenly Qin continent for thousands of years. Hiding was probably as simple as eating a meal for them. But it was also because of the demonic cultivators' concealment and guerrilla warfare that the Nanfeng region seemed to have fallen into a quagmire. Although the heavenly Qin continent had successfully recaptured the cities occupied by the demonic cultivators, they were unable to defeat the demonic cultivators' army in one fell swoop. At the same time, the 5 cities left behind by the demonic cultivators were all dead cities. The demonic cultivators had slaughtered all the citizens in the cities. According to estimates, no less than 50 million people were killed in the 5 cities of the Nanfeng region. Such a bloody massacre had aroused the anger of everyone in the heavenly Qin continent. Along the way, Xiaoqian had a basic understanding of the current situation in the heavenly Qin continent through constant inquiries and hearsay. For a moment, Xiaoqian was suddenly worried about the situation at home. Now that the demonic cultivators had attacked the 4 major regions, the Dongyang region was no exception. Although the Xiao family's Lingshan County city was only a small and remote city, and the demonic cultivators would not attack there were exceptions to everything. Once the demonic cultivators attacked the Lingshan County city, the city would not be able to stop them. Therefore, wouldn't the Xiao family be in danger? His father and mother were still at home. Worried about the safety of his parents, Xiaoqian directly went to Zhang Xian's residence. However, after asking around, he found out that Zhang Xian was not at the Heavenly Sword Peak. Due to the outbreak of war, many experts from the 7 overlord factions had been sent to the borders of the 4 great regions to wait for further orders. Zhang Xian and the other 2 had been ordered to the Western Pass City in the West Sea region a few days ago. Since Zhang Xian wasn't around, Xiaoqian had no choice but to return to the Dustless residence. It was after returning to the Dustless residence that Xiaoqian learned from Qin Luo and Qin Yao that Qin Shuru was currently in closed-door cultivation to break through to the Earth-Bright Mirror realm and would only emerge after some time. Xiaoqian didn't say much about Qin Shuru's breakthrough. Since he was in seclusion, he didn't want to disturb him. He returned to his room, still worried about his parents. It was a silent night. Xiaoqian didn't cultivate at all. He was thinking about the Eastern Sun region. After a night of thinking, Xiaoqian finally decided to bring his family to the 9 Firmaments Palace. There were some things that couldn't be gambled, and Xiaoqian couldn't afford to gamble. Take the safety of his parents for example. Xiaoqian obviously couldn't gamble. Now that the Eastern Sun region was in chaos and he was far away in the 9 Firmaments Palace, he couldn't keep track of the situation at home. As such, the best way was to bring his parents and family to the 9 Firmaments Palace. That would be the safest way. Given Xiaoqian's status in 9 Firmaments Palace, it would not be difficult for him to find a place for the members of the Xiao family to stay. He just needed to ask for a Dao Child's Mountain and arrange for the members of the Xiao family to stay there. He made up his mind, but the situation was chaotic. If he went alone, it would be difficult for him to reach the Lingshan County city safely. After all, his cultivation level was too low. He wasn't a fool. Xiaoqian knew that with his current cultivation level, he wouldn't be able to play any role in the war. It would even be difficult for him to protect himself. Therefore, he would definitely need the help of the 9 Firmaments Palace's experts to go to the Lingshan County city. However, Zhang Xian and the other 2 weren't at the Celestial Sword Peak, and the other peak leaders seemed to have rushed to the front line. For the time being, Xiaoqian didn't have a suitable candidate. At first, Xiaoqian thought of the ruler of the continent of the 9 Firmaments, but he quickly shook his head. In the current situation, the ruler of the continent of the 9 Firmaments couldn't escape. Therefore, he couldn't go to the Eastern Sun region with him. The ruler of the continent of the 9 firmaments couldn't do it. Suddenly, Xiaochen thought of someone, Dao Master Dan Yun, his cheap teacher. Even though he was usually drunk and sloppy, as a Dao Master, he was definitely the most suitable candidate. Thinking about that, Xiaochen went to Dao Master Dan Yun's residence. Fortunately, Dao Master Dan Yun hadn't left yet. However, even in the current situation, he was still drinking, and he still looked drunk. He was leaning lazily on a couch in the courtyard, holding a jug of alcohol. His face was ruddy, his eyes were full of drunkenness, and he reeked of alcohol. When Xiaochen saw Dao Master Dan Yun like that, he said angrily, "The entire Tianqian continent is in chaos, and you're still in the mood to drink?" When Dao Master Dan Yun heard Xiaochen, he burped and replied lazily, "Burp, the rulers are still there. Besides, if I don't drink, why should I?" He already had some understanding of Dao Master Dan Yun's character. He knew that this was an extremely lazy person. Except for wine, he didn't care about anything else. It was as if even if the sky fell down, it wouldn't matter to him. Xiaochen sighed helplessly. He didn't beat around the bush and said directly, "Teacher, there's something I need your help with." He told Dao Master Dan Yun that he wanted to bring the Xiao clan back to 9 Firmaments Palace. When Dao Master Dan Yun heard Xiaochen, he didn't immediately agree. Instead, he smiled brightly. "Oh, I can agree to this, but I have a condition." Dao Master Dan Yun didn't refuse. Instead, he took the opportunity to blackmail him. Seeing Dao Master Dan Yun's malicious expression, Xiaochen gnashed his teeth in anger. This old man, it's not the time to talk and he still wants to blackmail me. Moreover, he's blackmailing my disciple. "Say it, what condition?" Xiaochen said angrily. "It's very simple. I will help you bring the Xiao clan back. However, you have to promise me that you will learn alchemy from me. Before you become a profound great alchemist, you are not allowed to leave this place. How about it?" Dao Master Dan Yun said with a smile. His condition was to force Xiaochen to learn alchemy. Recently, Xiaochen had focused all his attention on his martial cultivation. It had been a long time since he learned alchemy. Hearing Dao Master Dan Yun's words, Xiaochen was displeased. There was actually such a thing? Forcing a duck to a perch? Now that the world is in chaos, alchemy? Alchemy, your sister. The most important thing is to improve your cultivation base. Otherwise, when you lose your life, how can you practice alchemy? Although he was filled with anger, there was nothing he could do. After a moment of silence, Xiaochen finally gritted his teeth and nodded. "Fine, I promise you." Translator, Endless Fantasy. Translation Editor, Endless Fantasy. Chapter 208. He had no choice but to agree to Dao Master Dan Yun's request. Then, they agreed to set off in 2 hours. Xiaochen turned around and left. The trip to the Dongyang region might not be extremely dangerous, but it was definitely full of dangers. Even with Dao Master Dan Yun's protection, he could not be careless. Therefore, before leaving, Xiaochen had some things to tell Qing Yao and Qing Luo. Looking at Xiaochen's back, Dao Master Dan Yun, who was leaning on the recliner, smiled faintly. The reason why he forced Xiaochen to follow him in refining elixirs was that Dao Master Dan Yun had noticed the weakness in Xiaochen's aura. Such weakness was nothing to ordinary warriors, but for Xiaochen, if Xiaochen continued to make breakthroughs at such a speed, it was likely that his foundation would be unstable, which would have an irreversible impact on his future. Refining elixirs could slow down Xiaochen's breakthroughs and help Xiaochen condense his spiritual power and stabilize his foundation. At the same time, it could also improve his alchemy cultivation. It was killing 2 birds with 1 stone. This little guy's state of mind is a little chaotic. You have to know that at such a time, you have to be calm. In troubled times, it is important to improve your strength quickly. However, if you give up your foundation because of this, the loss will outweigh the gain, Dao Master Dan Yun murmured softly after taking a sip of wine. Perhaps because of the appearance of demonic cultivators, Xiaochen felt an extreme sense of urgency. He always felt that he had to improve his cultivation as soon as possible. Because of this sense of urgency, Xiaochen constantly made breakthroughs at a high speed regardless of anything else. With such a speed of breakthrough, coupled with the urgency in his heart, Xiaochen gradually neglected his foundation over time. The purpose of Dao Master Danyan's previous request was to calm Xiaochen down. Even though troubled times were coming, he could not lose his mind because of this. It had to be said that even though Xiaochen had a heaven-defying aptitude, his temperament was still much worse than that of an old monster like Dao Master Danyan. However, Xiaochen could not be blamed. After all, Xiaochen was only a young man in his early 20s. He still had a long way to go. Now, Xiaochen was just a baby eagle who had just learned to fly. There was still a long way to go before he could spread his wings and fly. After 2 hours, Xiaochen explained everything to Dao Master Danyan. Then, they did not ride the golden-winged giant eagle. Under the guidance of Dao Master Danyan, they directly soared into the sky and disappeared in an instant. Dao Master Danyan's speed was much faster than that of the golden-winged giant eagle. As they flew in the sky, everything below became blurry at this moment. At this speed, they could reach East Pass City in at most one day. Of course, this was under the premise that Dao Master Danyan did not go all out. After all, Dao Master Danyan was a genuine dominator. They did not rest on the way. One day later, they successfully arrived at East Pass City. As one of the 4 gates of the Central Divine Realm, East Pass City, like South Pass City, was the only way to reach the Central Divine Realm from Dongyang Domain. What outsiders did not know was that the East, South, West, and North gates were all guarded by dominators. Each gate was guarded by 2 dominators. The reason for this was to prevent the demonic cultivators from invading the Central Divine Realm. War between the 4 great domains was unavoidable. However, the Central Divine Realm's safety had to be guaranteed. Therefore, the dominators had to keep the demonic cultivators out of the Central Divine Realm. South Pass City was guarded by the Savage Beast Dominator and the Tyrant Fist Dominator. West Pass City was guarded by the 9 Heavens Dominator and the 10,000 Weapons Dominator. North Pass City was guarded by the Burning Sky Dominator and the Divine Talisman Dominator. As for East Pass City, it was guarded by the Wood Heaven Dominator and the Heavenly Pill Dominator. As for the remaining 2 dominators, they guarded the Central Divine Realm. When the war had broken out, the dominators had their own duties. When Xiaochen and Dao Master Danyan arrived at East Pass City, the Heavenly Pill Dominator appeared. As soon as they met, the Heavenly Pill Dominator said to Dao Master Danyan with a cold expression, "What? You're finally willing to take action?" Her tone was filled with displeasure and jealousy. However, Dao Master Danyan laughed heartily when he heard the Heavenly Pill Dominator's words. "Wife, you've misunderstood. I'm here to bring Xiaochen's family to 9 Heavens Palace. He was not here to help the Heavenly Pill Dominator guard East Pass City." Hearing Dao Master Danyan's words, the Heavenly Pill Dominator's expression turned even colder. As for Xiaochen, he was stunned. What was going on? The Heavenly Pill Dominator was Dao Master Danyan's wife. Didn't that mean that his master's wife was an almighty dominator? He had no idea about the relationship between Dao Master Danyan and the Heavenly Pill Dominator. At the same time, the Heavenly Pill Dominator glanced at Xiaochen indifferently. However, she quickly retracted her gaze and said to Dao Master Danyan in a bad mood, "Whatever. I didn't expect you to be reliable anyway. However, I have to remind you that the situation in East Sun region is a little complicated. There are many demonic cultivators. We've already carried out several purges, but to no avail. You'll have to cross the entire East Sun region on your way to Lingshan City. There's a high chance that you'll be attacked by demonic cultivators." Lingshan City was located in a remote area of East Sun region. Therefore, to reach there, one had to cross the entire East Sun region. The danger level was obvious. Dao Master Danyan took a sip of wine and burped in response to the Heavenly Pill Dominator's warning. It was as if he didn't care at all. "You don't know how to appreciate my kindness. It's up to you. The Heavenly Pill Dominator shouted angrily when she saw Dao Master Danyan's reaction. Just as she finished speaking, a Dao Master rushed over with a solemn look on his face. He quickly came before the Heavenly Pill Dominator and bowed respectfully. Reporting to the Heavenly Pill Dominator, our scouts have reported that demonic cultivators and demonic servants have gathered 100 miles away. There are more than 200,000 of them. I'm afraid they'll attack East Pass City soon. The demonic cultivators were gathering again. The Heavenly Pill Dominator was no stranger to such a surprise attack. During this period, the demonic cultivators would launch such a surprise attack almost every few days. However, in the past, the largest number of demonic cultivators was in the tens of thousands. It was rare for there to be more than 100,000 demonic cultivators. This time, however, there were 200,000 demonic cultivators. The scale was much larger than before. The Heavenly Pill Dominator's expression turned serious. An attack of 200,000 demonic cultivators was indeed a matter that needed to be dealt with carefully. He glanced at Dao Master Danyan and said indifferently, "Don't leave the city. Wait until the demonic cultivators have retreated." The demonic cultivators were about to attack. Leaving the city at this time was obviously courting death. The Heavenly Pill Dominator didn't wait for Dao Master Danyan's reply and disappeared on the spot. Apparently, he had gone to arrange for the enemy. 23rd update, please collect, please vote, please recommend, please reward. Chapter 209. It was obvious that it would be difficult for them to leave the city in a short period of time, let alone go to Lingshan County City. They had no choice but to stay in Eastern Pass City and wait until the Eastern Pass City repelled the demonic cultivators. Then, they would find a chance to go to Lingshan County City. After arranging accommodations for Xiaochen and Xiaochen, Qin Heng and several Sky Sword Peak disciples took the initiative to visit them when Xiaochen arrived at his residence. They were arranged to stay in East Pass City. In order to prepare for an all-out war with the demonic cultivators, the 7 overlords had sent a large number of disciples to guard the 4 pass cities. Of course, Heaven's Prides like Xiaochen were not included in this list. Unless it was absolutely necessary, the 7 overlords obviously did not want to see Heaven's Prides fall. Everyone was naturally happy to meet an old friend in a foreign land. As they chatted, Xiaochen asked about the current situation in the Eastern Sun region, especially about the Xiao family and the East Sword Pavilion. After learning that the East Sword Pavilion and the Xiao family had not been attacked by the demonic cultivators, Xiaochen felt relieved. The current situation in the Eastern Sun region was basically the Heavenly Qin continent constantly wiping out the demonic cultivators. Occasionally, the demonic cultivators would choose to launch sneak attacks, causing the Heavenly Qin continent to be exhausted. The two sides fought back and forth, so it was difficult to determine the winner in a short period of time. In terms of overall strength, the Heavenly Qin continent absolutely crushed the demonic cultivators. After all, the demonic cultivators on the Heavenly Qin continent were only the remnants of the battle 3,000 years ago. Naturally, they could not be compared to the Heavenly Qin continent. However, these demonic cultivators were extremely good at hiding, so it was extremely difficult to catch all of them in one fell swoop. Just as everyone was chatting, the sound of war drums suddenly rang out. Hearing the earth-shaking war drums, Qin Heng and the others stood up abruptly and said with a gloomy expression, "The demonic cultivators are attacking." The war drums were actually an early warning, which meant that the demonic cultivators were attacking Eastern Pass City. All the warriors stationed in Eastern Pass City had to immediately enter a state of combat readiness. For Qin Heng and the others, they had gradually become accustomed to war. Although they had not been stationed in East Pass City for a long time, they had already experienced 8 or 9 big and small battles. He stood up and said his goodbyes. After Qin Heng and the others left, Xiaochen looked at the drunk Dao Master Danyan and guessed what Xiaochen was thinking. Dao Master Danyan said indifferently, "If you want to go, then go. But remember not to leave the city." Knowing that Xiaochen wanted to see the war with his own eyes, Dao Master Pill Cloud didn't stop him. Although Xiaochen was a proud monarch, he wasn't a flower in a greenhouse. personally experiencing the baptism of war was a good thing for Xiaochen. With Dao Master Danyan's permission, Xiaochen smiled and quickly left for the city wall. Along the way, with the sound of the war drums, the entire Eastern Pass city seemed to have turned into a huge war machine, operating quickly and methodically. Starting from the highest level, which was the Heavenly Pill ruler and the Heavenly Wood ruler, everyone was busy preparing for the upcoming war. Warriors of the Dao Querying Realm and above swept across the sky and went straight to the city wall. On the main road below the city wall, many warriors of the Celestial Realm and the Earth Mirror Realm gathered and formed a square formation. In an instant, the entire Eastern Pass city was shrouded in a dense murderous aura. In such an environment, Xiaochen was also affected. He murmured softly, "Is this war?" After thousands of years of peace, with the appearance of the demonic cultivators, the flames of war in the heavenly Qin continent were once again ignited. Stepping on the city wall, many people knew Xiaochen's identity, but no one said anything. Now, everyone's attention was on the upcoming war. Standing on top of the tall city walls, the entire Eastern Pass city was built in a valley. On both sides were towering cliffs that reached into the clouds. The Eastern Pass city completely blocked off the valley. It was located between the cliffs on both sides, blocking the way forward. The valley was very wide, at least 10 kilometers wide. At a glance, it looked like a huge dragon that stretched straight into the Eastern Sun region. Just as Xiaochen looked along the valley, a dark cloud of darkness was rapidly approaching from afar. It was not a dark cloud, but an army of demonic cultivators. In the sky and on the ground, there were demonic cultivators in black robes everywhere. There were definitely more than 200,000 of them. Was the information wrong? This army of demonic cultivators is definitely more than 200,000. Seeing this scene, someone couldn't help but say, "Who cares how many they have? Our Eastern Pass city has 500,000 people guarding it. Furthermore, it's a natural stronghold. Even if they have 500,000 demonic cultivators, it's impossible for them to breach the city," said another person beside that person after hearing that person's words. Occupying the Eastern Pass city as a natural stronghold filled everyone's hearts with confidence. However, no one knew how long this confidence would last. In the camp of the demonic cultivators, there were a total of 10 super experts in the Tao Master realm. They stood in the middle of the army and looked at Dingwen City standing in the valley from afar. One of the Tao Master realm experts sneered. This time, Lord Demon Envoy secretly mobilized an army to attack the Eastern Pass city. It's funny that these idiots thought this attack was just a small-scale battle, haha. This time, Lord Demon Envoy has gathered 1,000,000 soldiers. As long as we take down the Eastern Pass city, the heavenly Qin continent will definitely be in chaos. This way, we can buy more time for the key to completely awaken, another Dao Master said. This time, it was not an ordinary attack like before. The demonic cultivators were prepared to take down the Eastern Pass city in one go, thus plunging the heavenly Qin continent into complete chaos. For this reason, the demon envoys specially mobilized hundreds of thousands of people from the other 3 regions. They were unaware that the demonic cultivators' operation was not limited to ordinary attacks, but to take down the Eastern Pass city in one go. Hearing the words of the Dao Masters, a feminine young man beside them sneered. "I wonder if the 10 proud kings are in the Eastern Pass city. I've long wanted to meet the 10 proud kings of the heavenly Qin continent." He was only at the initial Earth Mirror realm, but he was able to travel with a group of super experts in the Dao Master realm. Moreover, it seemed that these experts were vaguely protecting the young man in the middle, which showed that the young man's status was not low. Indeed, this young man was the son of a demon envoy and had a high status among the demonic cultivators. Hearing the young man's words, a Dao sovereign expert laughed and said, "Master, the 10 proud kings are not participating in the war. Perhaps the heavenly Qin continent wants to protect them. Therefore, I'm afraid you won't be able to meet them this time." 24th update, please collect, please vote, please recommend, please reward. Chapter 210. It wasn't a secret that the 10 proud kings and the other skyprides didn't participate in the war. The sovereigns did so to protect these skyprides. To put it bluntly, they were the future of the heavenly Chin continent. The sovereigns wouldn't let these people die in vain unless they had no other choice. Hearing that there were no proud kings in East Pass City, the young man revealed a look of disappointment. I really want to see how powerful these legendary proud kings are. Master, the 10 proud kings naturally can't be compared to you. They're just a bunch of clowns. When our army of demonic cultivators arrives in the future, you can kill them however you want. A Tao sovereign expert laughed. Hearing this, the young man smiled coldly. He was obviously very satisfied with the Tao sovereign expert's answer. That's right, as the son of the demon envoy, why should he be afraid of the 10 proud kings? In a good mood, the young man sneered. If that's the case, I'll kill more ants of the heavenly Chin continent. After we break through East Pass City today, I'll massacre the entire city to celebrate. While they were talking, the army of demonic cultivators approached East Pass City. They were less than 3 kilometers away from the city. As the army of demonic cultivators approached, the army of the heavenly Chin continent on the city wall was shocked. Isn't this number too exaggerated? There were far more than 200,000 cultivators. However, after a short moment of shock, the Tao kings began to give orders. The giant crossbows on the city wall were aimed directly at the army of demonic cultivators. These giant crossbows were called God-destroying crossbows. They were the most powerful heavy weapons in the heavenly Chin continent. They were 3 meters tall and 5 meters long. The crossbow arrow was 6 meters long and looked like a pillar. Each God-destroying crossbow required at least 3 people to operate. However, the power of the God-destroying crossbow couldn't be underestimated. Any martial artist below the Tao Querying Realm would be killed instantly. Even Tao Querying Realm and Tao Validation Realm martial artists would be in danger if they couldn't dodge in time. However, after reaching the Tao Querying Realm, martial artists could fly in the air, so the hit rate was greatly reduced. However, only those who had reached the Tao King realm were qualified to say that they weren't afraid of the power of the God-destroying crossbow. The army of over 1 million demonic cultivators surged towards East Pass City like a flood. It was as if they were going to break through this impregnable city that had stood for thousands of years. Their numbers were double that of the East Pass City's defenders. As for the East Pass City's side, their only advantage was the God-destroying crossbows. As they gazed at the approaching army of devil cultivators, over 10 Tao King Realm experts on the city wall raised their right hands successively. When they saw this, the hundreds of God-killer crossbows that connected the entire city wall drew their bowstrings and prepared to fire at any moment. 3 kilometers, 2 kilometers. Accompanied by a loud bellow, several hundred God-exterminating crossbows were fired at the same time. The sounds of arrows piercing through the air rang out continuously. Release. The first volley of God-vanquishing crossbows was aimed directly at the warriors below the heaven realm. And against the massive arrows that filled the sky, the demonic servants with heaven realm cultivation had no room to dodge. After all, it was a valley to begin with. Even though it was extremely wide, there was ultimately a limit. With 1 million people surging into the valley, it was no surprise that they became live targets. Blood splattered. In the face of the continuous shooting of the God-destroying crossbow, even a celestial realm warrior could not resist and was instantly pierced through. After the first volley, the devil cultivator army in the front row suffered heavy casualties. Crossbow bolts that were 6 meters long stood erect on the ground. The ground seemed to have turned into a porcupine in an instant. Such power! Xiaochen murmured softly. It was the first time he had seen the God-vanquishing crossbows fire with his own eyes. Heaven realm experts were pierced through like tofu. Such power was indeed extraordinary. After the first volley, the second volley was quickly prepared. Accompanied by a loud bellow, release. The second volley of God-vanquishing crossbows was fired again. In a short distance of several hundred meters, the devil cultivator army had already experienced 2 volleys of God-vanquishing crossbow fire. the death toll instantly reached over 10,000. And in regards to this, the Tao Sovereign Realm experts in the Devil Cultivator army did not seem to care at all. Of course, it was not that they did not care, but that they had no choice. Since they were going to attack the city, they had to be prepared to withstand the attacks of the god-vanquishing crossbows. It could be said that attacking a city was using lives to fill the gap. Only by using many lives to withstand the volleys of god-vanquishing crossbows could they approach the city and launch an attack. It was also because of this that when attacking a city, the number of attackers must be greater than the number of defenders. Otherwise, it was basically impossible to succeed. In a short distance of 2 kilometers, the Devil Cultivator army experienced 7 volleys of god-vanquishing crossbows, and the death toll quickly rose to 100,000. Looking at the battlefield in front of him, Xiaochen realized the cruelty of war. On this stage, the warriors of the celestial realm were just ants. Even the experts of the Tao-querying realm and the doctrine-proving realm did not have the ability to change the tide of the battle. On the battlefield, unless one had reached the level of Dominator, the strength of an individual was too insignificant, almost negligible. For example, the celestial realm warriors on the side of the demonic cultivators were only cannon fodder. They used their bodies to block round after round of god-destroying crossbows. That was all. The Devil Cultivator army suffered heavy losses, but it was also because of this that they finally succeeded in approaching East Pass City. At the same time, a bellow came from the Devil Cultivator army. Those of the Tao-querying realm and above, destroy the god-vanquishing crossbows immediately. Those of the Heaven realm and below, break the city gate and rush into the city. Finally, they were within the attack range. The Tao Master Realm expert in the Devil Cultivator army gave the order immediately. Then, the Devil Cultivator army quickly moved. Those of the Tao-querying realm and above quickly rushed up to the city wall, while those of the Heaven realm and below swarmed toward the city gate. Along with the attack of the Shoma army, 8 figures also rose into the air from the East Pass City. These 8 people were the super experts in the Tao Master Realm among the defenders of the East Pass City, 2 less than the Shoma army. At this moment, the 8 people's faces were somewhat solemn. Obviously, the Devil Cultivators' attack this time had completely exceeded their expectations. Some people even guessed that the Devil Cultivators' purpose this time was not just to harass and sneak attack, but to really prepare to attack the city and take down East Pass City in one fell swoop. They had somewhat misjudged the Devil Cultivators' attack, but it was probably too late to ask for reinforcements now. It would take at least 6 hours for the other rulers to arrive. Looking at the Devil Cultivator army that blotted out the sky and covered the earth with a solemn expression, one of the burly men with a dark face shouted in a deep voice, "Continue to shoot with the god-vanquishing crossbows. Everyone, listen to my order, meet the enemy." As soon as he finished speaking, the 8 Tao Master Realm experts rushed out directly. On the Devil Cultivator's side, the 4 Tao Master Realm experts from before also met them directly. For a moment, the 2 armies engaged in a fierce head-on battle. 25th update, please collect, recommend, ask for monthly votes, ask for rewards. Chapter 211. The 2 armies were engaged in a fierce battle. On the city wall, demonic cultivators of Tao-querying realm and above quickly attacked. Their target was the god-destroying crossbows. Facing the fierce attack of the demonic cultivators, the experts of East Pass City were all mobilized and engaged in a fierce battle with the demonic cultivators. Basically, when the war broke out, everyone would actively seek opponents of similar cultivation to themselves. If the difference in cultivation was too great, they would not be able to fight and would be slaughtered directly. Of course, the premise was that the difference in strength between the 2 sides was not too great. Otherwise, it would not be like this. Tao Sovereign Realm against Tao Sovereign Realm, Tao King Realm against Tao King Realm, and so on. However, the number of experts guarding Eastern Pass City was obviously much smaller in the face of the well-prepared attack of the demonic cultivators. For example, there were 10 super experts in the Tao Master Realm on the demonic cultivators' side, but there were only 8 in the East Pass City. 2 less experts meant that at least 2 of the Dao Masters in the East Pass City would have to fight against 2 opponents at the same time. In addition to the super experts of the Dao Sovereign Realm, the number of experts of the Dao King Realm was also lacking by 3. It could be said that the Eastern Pass City was at a complete disadvantage. There was such a gap between the top combatants, let alone the warriors of the Celestial Realm and the Earth Realm. The gap was not just a few, but hundreds, thousands, or even tens of thousands. Soon, East Pass City fell into a passive position. However, the only thing worth rejoicing about was the hundreds of god-destroying crossbows on the city wall. With these god-destroying crossbows, East Pass City was still able to contend with the demonic cultivators. However, this advantage was constantly decreasing because the god-destroying crossbows were constantly being destroyed by the demonic cultivators. Damn it! These damned demonic cultivators! How could they have so many people in East Sun region? While fighting fiercely, someone cursed in confusion. Logically speaking, now that the 4 major regions of Heavenly Qin Continent were at war, and the demonic cultivators' overall strength was not as strong as Heavenly Qin Continent, it was impossible for them to gather millions of people to attack East Sun region. The most important thing was that there were so many experts. There were 10 Dao Master Realm experts. Could it be that these guys secretly gathered experts from the other 3 regions in order to take down East Pass City? Someone quickly guessed the secret behind this. It was very difficult for the demonic cultivators of the Eastern Sun region to gather so many experts. Therefore, they had to gather the forces of the other 3 regions. It was clear that this was premeditated and it must have been planned for a long time. To secretly gather experts from the other 3 regions and to avoid the eyes and ears of the Heavenly Qin Continent, this was definitely not something that could be done in a short period of time. The development of the situation was completely beyond everyone's expectations. In the battlefield of the Dao Masters, the demonic cultivators, who had the advantage in numbers, were gradually taking control of the situation. Although it was difficult to determine the winner, the demonic cultivators had firmly grasped the initiative. Haha, ants of the Heavenly Qin Continent, do you still want to resist? You won't be able to defend this Eastern Pass City today. A Dao Master Realm demonic cultivator laughed loudly. He and another person were besieging a Dao Master Realm expert from the Heavenly Qin Continent. Under the joint attack of the 2, the Dao Master Realm expert from the Heavenly Qin Continent kept retreating. Hearing the sneer of the other person, the Dao Master Realm expert from the Heavenly Qin Continent clenched his teeth and held on. Wishful thinking. You're the ones who will die today. When the reinforcements arrive, none of you will be able to leave. Wait for the reinforcements? You can wait until then. The entire army had fallen into a disadvantage. It was also at this moment that the Heavenly Pill Lord and the Heavenly Wood Lord finally appeared in the sky. They stood proudly in the sky as they gazed at the huge army of demonic cultivators. Although they remained calm, the graveness that flashed through their eyes unconsciously showed how dangerous the situation was. Haha, Heavenly Elixir, Heavenly Wood, you're finally willing to come out. At the same time, a demon envoy in a black robe appeared in front of them. The 3 of them stood facing each other. They were no strangers to each other and had fought several times. As the commander-in-chief of the demonic cultivators in the Eastern Sun region, Heavenly Wood said coldly when he saw the demon envoy. You're really generous. But so what? As long as we take you down, the battle below will end in an instant. The scale of the demonic cultivators this time was indeed huge. It could be said that this was an unprecedented surprise attack. But in the eyes of the Heavenly Wood ruler, it was nothing. As long as he and the Heavenly Elixir ruler worked together to take down the demon envoy, the 2 of them would be free to deal with the battle below. With the rulers intervening, even if the demonic cultivators had the advantage in numbers, it would be useless. Unless the demonic cultivators had a demon envoy who could restrain the Heavenly Wood ruler and the Heavenly Elixir ruler. 2 rulers working together to deal with a demon envoy might be difficult to kill, but there was a high chance that they could repel him. As long as they could repel this demon envoy, they would not lose Eastern Pass City. Hearing the Heavenly Wood ruler's words, the demon envoy sneered. That's a good idea. But if you can think of it, how can we not? So, I'm afraid the one to retreat this time won't be me, but the two of you. In the previous few clashes, the demon envoy had faced two rulers alone, so it was always the ruler who was repelled. But today, the demon envoy seemed to be very confident. As soon as he finished speaking, the heavenly elixir ruler and the heavenly wood ruler understood where the demon envoy's confidence came from. At the same time, both of them frowned because two more black-robed figures had appeared on both sides of the demon envoy. In an instant, 3 demon envoys had appeared on the demonic cultivator's side. In terms of the number of rulers, the demonic cultivator's side was far inferior to the heavenly Chen continent. The heavenly Chen continent had a total of 10 rulers. Including the Pill Cloud Tao Master, that was a total of 11 rulers. On the other hand, the demonic cultivators only had 4 demon envoys. Previously, each demon envoy was responsible for a region's battle. But now, 3 demon envoys had gathered in Eastern Pass City. It was obvious that the demonic cultivators had mobilized all their forces in Eastern Pass City for this battle. Seeing the 3 demon envoys, the experts of Eastern Pass City below were shocked. Everyone's heart sank. This time, they were really done for. They actually gathered 3 demon envoys at once? Someone couldn't help but exclaim. Now that even the rulers didn't have the upper hand in the battle, Eastern Pass City might not be able to hold on. It should be known that the battle between sovereigns was the one that truly determined the outcome of the war. Once the outcome of the battle between sovereigns was decided, or if one side was unable to restrain the other side's sovereigns, even if it was just one sovereign who was free to attack the others, it would be a huge disaster. This was because even Tao Masters could be easily destroyed in front of sovereigns. 26th Update. Please bookmark, recommend, vote, reward. Chapter 212. The appearance of the 3 demon envoys made everyone's heart sink. The sovereigns, who should have had the absolute advantage, were now at a disadvantage because of the demonic cultivator's secret plot. 2 sovereigns against 3 demon envoys. Obviously, they had no chance of winning. Moreover, as long as the 2 demon envoys delayed the heavenly pill ruler and the heavenly wood ruler, the remaining demon envoys would be free to slaughter the defenders of East Pass City. The consequences were terrifying. The morale of the heavenly Chen continent's side instantly plummeted, while the demonic cultivators' battle intent soared. It was as if they had already won. Many demonic cultivators laughed loudly. We must take down East Pass City today. That's right. Today, we must massacre the city to celebrate. They had already begun to cheer. However, only one person remained calm, and that was the heavenly pill ruler. To be honest, the heavenly pill ruler did not expect the appearance of the 3 demon envoys at first. However, things in the world were always so mysterious. If it was any other day, the demonic cultivators might have won. However, they would be disappointed today because there was still a sovereign in East Pass City. He was a stinky man who did not care about anything and only knew how to drink all day. Not only did he not panic, he even revealed a faint smile. Unfortunately, you came at the wrong time, the heavenly pill ruler said. The 3 demon envoys did not understand what the heavenly pill ruler meant. How could he still laugh at a time like this? Soon, Tao Master Dan Yun appeared beside the heavenly pill ruler. He still looked drunk. He held a huge wine jug in his hand and took a big gulp of wine. He exhaled a mouthful of wine and said, "Phew, this feels good. This wine tastes better when it's stronger." He did not take the 3 demon envoys seriously at all. Seeing this, the 3 demon envoys looked at each other. Who is this drunkard? Is he also a sovereign? However, it was impossible. They had secretly investigated the 10 sovereigns of the heavenly Chen continent and had detailed records. There was no Tao Master Dan Yun among them. Judging from Tao Master Dan Yun's aura, the 3 demon emissaries were sure that Tao Master Dan Yun was just a super expert in the Tao Master realm. They immediately burst into laughter. I was wondering who it was. It's just an ant in the Tao Master realm. Why? Is this your trump card? After confirming that Tao Master Dan Yun was only a Tao Master, the 3 demon envoys relaxed. Hearing their mocking laughter, Wood Heaven Ruler was also puzzled. Why would Tao Master Dan Yun come to a battle between rulers? Looking for a beating? Apart from the Heavenly Alchemy Ruler and the ruler of the continent of the 9 clouds, no one in the Heavenly Qin continent knew how strong Tao Master Dan Yun was. Facing the 3 demon envoys' mockery, Tao Master Dan Yun looked at the Heavenly Alchemy Ruler lazily and said, "Wife, you can choose. I'll take the rest. Let the Heavenly Pill Ruler and Heavenly Wood Ruler pick their own opponents and leave the rest to him." Hearing Pill Cloud Tao Sovereign's words, the Heavenly Pill Ruler smiled and said, "At least you still have some conscience." Then, the Heavenly Pill Ruler chose one of the demon envoys and attacked. The 2 of them disappeared and flew up into the sky to fight. After the Heavenly Pill Ruler chose his opponent, the Heavenly Wood Ruler looked at Tao Master Pill Cloud, puzzled. When Tao Master Pill Cloud saw that, he waved his hand and said, "Hurry up and choose. The rest are mine." He gestured for Heavenly Ruler Wood to choose first. However, as soon as Tao Sovereign Pill Cloud finished speaking, the first devil envoy to appear directly struck out with his palm. His target was Tao Sovereign Pill Cloud, and he shouted coldly, "Ant, you're courting death." Obviously, Tao Master Pill Cloud's attitude had angered the demon envoys. A mere ant in the Tao Master realm dared to act so arrogantly in front of the 3 demon envoys. He wanted to kill Tao Master Pill Cloud with a punch. Seeing this, the Heavenly Wood Ruler was about to save him. However, Tao Master Pill Cloud took a step forward and burped. To everyone's surprise, this burp was filled with boundless spiritual energy and instantly defeated the demon envoy's attack. A burp was enough to block the full-strength attack of a demon envoys. This was definitely not something a Tao Master could do. Seeing this, the remaining 2 demon envoys were stunned. The Heavenly Wood Ruler was also stunned. He stared coldly at Tao Master Pill Cloud. Even the Heavenly Wood Ruler felt a little confused. This guy had been pretending to be weak all along? Was he a sovereign in the first place? "Pill Cloud, you..." The Heavenly Wood Ruler wanted to ask, but didn't know what to say. After Tao Master Pill Cloud revealed his cultivation base, the Heavenly Wood Ruler's attitude towards him changed. He now treated him as an equal. Facing the Heavenly Wood Ruler's astonishment, Tao Master Pill Cloud smiled and said, "Actually, I'm only interested in wine. If it weren't for that wastrel of a woman forcing me to fight, I definitely wouldn't have come. You can choose your opponent and leave the rest to me. However, I can't guarantee that I'll win." He still looked drunk and lazy, but the Heavenly Wood Ruler didn't say anything. He nodded slightly and chose the demon envoys who had just attacked. The 2 soared into the sky and began fighting. The Heavenly Pill Ruler and the Heavenly Wood Ruler both chose their opponents. Looking at the last demon envoys, Tao Master Pill Cloud said, "How about we chat and drink some wine? My wine tastes pretty good. Why don't you try it?" When the 2 sides faced off, Tao Master Pill Cloud actually invited the opponent's demon envoys to drink wine. Hearing this, the demon envoy's expression turned extremely gloomy. He could tell that this guy had been putting on an act from the beginning. In fact, he was a genuine almighty ruler. "You're courting death." He didn't want to waste any time talking nonsense with Tao Master Pill Cloud. He directly struck out with his palm. Seeing this, Tao Master Pill Cloud sighed helplessly. "Sigh, why must we fight? Can't we just drink and chat?" It was as if he didn't want to fight with the demon envoys at all. However, in the face of the demon envoy's attack, Tao Master Pill Cloud immediately erupted with a terrifying aura. This aura was so powerful that it actually surpassed the Heavenly Pill Ruler and the Heavenly Wood Ruler. Clearly, Tao Master Pill Cloud's cultivation base was definitely not at the initial ruler realm. The great perfection of the Tao Emperor realm. Feeling the terrifying aura of Tao Master Pill Cloud, the demon envoy's expression changed immediately. Above the Tao Sovereign realm was the Tao Emperor realm, which was also the realm of almighty rulers. The great perfection of the Tao Emperor realm was obviously the peak of the Tao Emperor realm. If one took another step forward, they would break through the Tao Emperor realm and enter the realm of divine transcendence. That realm was something that even the rulers didn't dare to imagine. 27th update. Please collect. Please vote. Please recommend. Please reward me. Chapter 213. A Tao Exalt had actually become an almighty overlord at the perfection stage of the Tao Emperor realm. The expressions of everyone present changed when they sensed the terrifying aura emanating from Tao Exalt Dan Yun. Tao Master Dan Yun wasn't a stranger to the people of the heavenly Qin continent. Many people in the Dan Valley knew him. Tao Master Dan Yun had always given people the impression that he was a drunkard who didn't care about anything. He didn't care about anything in the heavenly Dan Valley. He was just the vice master of the heavenly Dan Valley. Who would have thought that Tao Master Dan Yun had concealed his strength so deeply? Among all the rulers of the heavenly Qin continent, only one had reached the peak of the Tao Emperor layer. The others were all at the peak of the small Tao Emperor layer. But now, Tao Master Dan Yun's cultivation level was the same as the ruler of the continent of the Nine Clouds. Things had developed beyond everybody's expectations. After Tao Master Dan Yun revealed his cultivation level, he sighed helplessly and said, "Actually, drinking wine is good. Unfortunately, you don't listen to me." Tao Exalt Dan Yun was speaking to the devil emissary before him. Earlier, Tao Exalt Dan Yun had invited him to drink, but he'd refused. At this moment, when he heard Tao Exalt Dan Yun, the devil emissary's eyes were filled with rage, and there was a trace of seriousness as well. The perfection stage of the Tao Emperor realm was no joke. His arrogance disappeared in an instant. Clearly, Tao Master Dan Yun didn't give the demon emissary any chance. As soon as he finished speaking, he took a step forward. However, his figure appeared in front of the demon emissary in an instant. He struck out with his palm and forced the demon emissary to retreat. Then, the two of them soared into the sky at the same time and started their battle. The ruler's battle changed completely because of Tao Master Dan Yun. The people of the heavenly Qin continent, who had been at a disadvantage, now had the upper hand. Even Shaochen hadn't thought that the drunkard would be so strong. The originally low morale rose again because of Tao Master Dan Yun's powerful attack. For a time, the heavenly Qin continent also launched a counterattack. As long as the sovereigns had the upper hand, there would be hope for East Pass City, because the sovereigns were able to control the whole battle. Of course, the premise was that there must be a sovereign who could free himself. The demonic cultivators fought back with all their might. Faced with the heavenly Qin continent's counterattack, the pressure on the demonic cultivators increased greatly. Fierce battles broke out on all levels of the battlefield. At the same time, the only battlefield where the demonic cultivators still had an advantage was the one where the Earth Mirror cultivators were at. The battle broke out. Outside East Pass City, there were a total of 3 major battle zones. The mighty sovereigns were fighting in the sky, while the warriors from the Tao Master realm to the Tao Querying realm were fighting in the air. As for the warriors of the Celestial realm and the Earth Mirror realm, they were fighting in the canyon outside the city. Now, all the major battlefields were in full swing, but the demonic cultivators still had the absolute advantage in the battle zone where the Earth Mirror cultivators were at. The reason for all this was the previous young man, the son of the demon envoy. Although he was young, the son of the demon envoy's battle strength was extremely terrifying. His cultivation was only at the initial stage of the Earth Mirror realm, but even a warrior of the complete stage of the Earth Mirror realm could not resist him. Judging from his battle strength, he might have already surpassed the peerless geniuses. Leading the Earth Mirror army of the demonic cultivators to kill the enemy, the young man took the lead. Perhaps because of the appearance of Tao Master Dan Yun just now, the young man wanted to use the fastest speed to determine the victory in defeat here, so that the demonic cultivators could expand their advantage. It was also because of the young man's fierce offensive that the Earth Mirror cultivators of the heavenly Qin continent were defeated. Don't underestimate the battle between the Earth Mirror cultivators on both sides. Although the Earth Mirror cultivators' cultivation base was very low, they had the advantage in terms of numbers. Among the two armies, the Earth Mirror cultivators had the largest number of Earth Mirror cultivators, accounting for more than 200,000 of them. The Shilma cultivators were even more terrifying, with a total of 500,000 Earth Mirror cultivators. They could be regarded as the main force of the war, and because of this, the outcome of the battle between the Earth Mirror cultivators actually had a huge impact on the entire war situation. Imagine, if the Earth Mirror cultivators of the Heavenly Chin continent were completely defeated, the demonic cultivators would be able to free up a large number of Earth Mirror cultivators to support the Celestial Realm cultivators on the battlefield. In this way, with the help of hundreds of thousands of Earth Mirror cultivators, the Celestial Realm cultivators of the Heavenly Chin continent would not be able to hold on for long. Then, the demonic cultivators would be able to gather Celestial Realm and Earth Mirror cultivators to help the Dao Querying Realm cultivators in the battle. It should be known that a large number of ants could bite an elephant to death. Hundreds of thousands of Celestial Realm and Earth Mirror cultivators besieged the Dao Querying Realm cultivators, which was absolutely a situation of 9 out of 10 lives. From this, it could be seen how important the battle between the Earth Mirror cultivators was. The young man clearly understood this point, so he was doing his best to try to defeat all the Earth Mirror cultivators of the Heavenly Chin continent in the shortest time possible. Seeing that the young man was gradually losing, the Earth Mirror cultivators of the Heavenly Chin continent were all frightened, as if they had been beaten into submission. There was no other way. The demonic cultivators originally had a large number of people, and with the young man overseeing them, the young man was almost invincible among the Earth Mirror cultivators. In less than an hour, the number of Heavenly Chin continent cultivators who had died at the young man's hands had reached hundreds. Someone had to stop the young man, otherwise, if this continued, they would not be able to hold on for long, because the Heavenly Chin continent cultivators had been killed to the point of cowardice. Someone had to stop the young man, but looking around, among the hundreds of thousands of Earth Mirror cultivators of the Heavenly Chin continent, who would be able to stop the young man? As the son of the demon envoy, the young man could be said to have grown up under the guidance of an almighty ruler, so the cultivation resources he had were absolutely incomparable to the average person. Ants of the Heavenly Chin continent, die for me. The young man shouted coldly as he held a black longsword in his hand. Then, he thrust his sword forward and killed another Earth Mirror Realm martial artist who had reached the profound success stage. Completely terrified, no one could stop the young man. At the same time, under the leadership of the young man, the demonic cultivators of the Earth Mirror cultivators morale soared, and each one of them pounced on the Heavenly Chin continent cultivators like hungry wolves. Retreating step by step, a white figure jumped down from the city wall of the Eastern Pass City and appeared directly in front of the young man. Facing the young man's stab, a red light flashed in the white figure's hand, and a long sword exquisitely blocked the young man's attack, successfully saving a Heavenly Chin continent cultivator. Seeing his attack blocked, the young man was slightly stunned, and asked, "Who are you?" "The person who will kill you," the white figure replied. 28th update. Please collect, recommend, ask for monthly votes, ask for rewards. Chapter 214. The white figure was Xiaochen. Xiaochen had seen everything that happened on the city wall. He knew that if no one stopped the young man, the Heavenly Chin continent would definitely lose. So at the last moment, Xiaochen decided to take action. When the battle started, no one in the city could stop the young man. Only Xiaochen was qualified to do so. So without any hesitation, Xiaochen decided to take action. Holding his sword, his white robe fluttered in the wind. Seeing Xiaochen take action, the Heavenly Chin continent cultivators were delighted. Yes, they had forgotten that the bewitching Sword King was still in the city. If the young man was the young genius of the demonic cultivators, then Xiaochen was the young king of the Eastern Pass City. Bewitching Sword King. Great, this is great. Damn it, I actually forgot about the Bewitching Sword King. We can still fight, we can still fight. We might not lose. Everyone shouted with joy. With Xiao Chen here, they could still fight. Because of Xiao Chen's appearance, the Heavenly Qin Continent cultivators were no longer in a disadvantageous position. They were all extremely excited. Feeling the change in the Heavenly Qin Continent cultivators, the demonic cultivators looked at Xiao Chen in confusion. What's going on? Who is this person? Why is he able to make the Heavenly Qin Continent cultivators so confident? Looking at his cultivation, he is only at the initial Earth Mirror realm. Who would have thought that a kid who had just entered the Earth Clear Mirror realm would have such great influence? At the same time, the young man facing Xiao Chen quickly recognized him after a brief moment of astonishment. As the son of the demon envoy, the young man claimed to be the young king of the demonic cultivators. So, the young man had always regarded the 10 great prides as his opponents. So, the young man specially collected information about the 10 great prides. Naturally, he was no stranger to Xiao Chen. I was wondering who it was. So it's the Bewitching Sword King. Very good, very good. I have long wanted to meet the 10 great prides of the Heavenly Qin Continent. The young man said with a cold smile. Hearing the young man's words, Xiao Chen did not reply. Coldness flashed in his eyes and he immediately slashed out with his sword. At the same time, he shouted coldly, "Kill!" Naturally, there was no need for superfluous words when dealing with a young man. The two sides were already fighting to the death. At the same time, hearing Xiao Chen shout, the Earth Mirror martial artists on the side of the Heavenly Qin Continent began to frantically counterattack as if they had been injected with chicken blood. Sometimes, war requires a spiritual pillar. Previously, no one was able to stop the young man, causing the people of the Heavenly Qin Continent to be unable to find a spiritual pillar. But now, Xiao Chen's appearance changed everything in an instant, allowing everyone to see hope again. Crazy, completely crazy. As the young man was stopped by Xiao Chen, the people of the Heavenly Qin Continent also turned into a pack of mad dogs. Their eyes were bloodshot as they charged at the demonic cultivators in front of them with no regard for their own lives. If the army of demonic cultivators were a pack of hungry wolves, then the people of the Heavenly Qin Continent were a pack of mad dogs that had been forced into a corner with no way out. They couldn't retreat, nor could they retreat any further, because the East Pass city behind them was the last and only line of defense of the Central Divine Realm. Once the East Pass city was breached by the demonic cultivators, the Central Divine Realm would instantly become a battlefield for both sides. Brothers, kill, kill! Battle cries rose and fell. In an instant, the battle that seemed to have been decided became intense once again. Facing the fierce counterattack of the Heavenly Qin Continent, the demonic cultivators' faces turned extremely ugly. They were about to win, but Xiao Chen appeared at the last moment. Because of his appearance, the entire situation of the battle changed drastically. Because of Xiao Chen's appearance, the demonic cultivators who had already lost their will to fight went crazy one by one. Damn it! That damn King Bewitching Sword! We were so close to defeating them. Ah, ants of the Heavenly Qin Continent! Today, I will flatten the East Pass city. The demonic cultivators cursed angrily as they resisted with all their might. The battle was even more intense than before. Sensing the changes in the battle between the two sides, the warriors on the other battlefields had different expressions on their faces. The people of the Heavenly Qin Continent originally thought that the Earth Mirror battlefield wouldn't be able to hold on for much longer. But with the appearance of Xiao Chen, everyone heaved a sigh of relief. At the place where the Dao Sovereign experts were fighting, a Dao Sovereign expert from the Heavenly Qin Continent smiled with relief. The Heavenly Pill Sovereign is right. You guys came at the wrong time today. We have the Pill Cloud Sovereign and the King Bewitching Sword in the Earth Mirror battlefield. Now, the demonic cultivators are the two strongest forces. Both of them are restrained by us. Compared to the actions of the Heavenly Qin Continent side, the experts of the Shilma side were naturally overflowing with coldness. Hearing the words of the Dao Master expert, the Shilma cultivator who was fighting against him snorted coldly. Humph! How can a mere King Bewitching Sword be a match for Young Master? Young Master will definitely kill that King Bewitching Sword in 100 moves. Ha! Don't underestimate the king-bewitching sword of the heavenly Chen continent. Hearing the demonic cultivator's words, the Tao sovereign expert from the heavenly Chen continent laughed heartily. Then, his attacks became even fiercer. This scene could be seen everywhere in the battle zones. Unknowingly, Xiao Chen's appearance not only affected the Battle of the Earth Mirror battlefield, but also affected the battles of the other battle zones. Knowing that the Battle of the Earth Mirror battlefield had been stabilized by Xiao Chen, the heavenly Chen continent's cultivators of all cultivation realms let loose and fought against the demonic cultivators. At this moment, the heavenly Chen continent's side had nothing to worry about. The sovereign expert had the Pill Cloud Tao sovereign and the Earth Mirror battlefield had the King Bewitching sword. The demonic cultivators' two greatest advantages were perfectly neutralized by the master and disciple. Hope appeared in the eyes of the heavenly Chen continent's cultivators. It was as if they could see the hope of defending Eastern Pass City. He did not realize that his actions would have such a huge impact on the battle. At this time, Xiao Chen and the young man were fighting fiercely. Both of them were swordsmen. After a fierce battle, the young man said with a cold smile on his face, "Not bad. You are indeed worthy of the title of King Bewitching Sword. You did not disappoint me. Is that so? However, it's a pity that you have disappointed me. With your strength, you want to challenge the 10 King Bewitching Sword? You are thinking too much." Facing the young man's sneer, Xiao Chen replied calmly, "Ha! You are indeed arrogant. I wonder if the sword in your hand is as powerful as your mouth. Prepare to die, Xiao Chen." Hearing this, the young man was not angry. His aura suddenly surged and the long sword in his hand pierced out at lightning speed. 29th update. Begging for collection, begging for monthly votes, begging for recommendation, begging for rewards. Chapter 215. The sword in the young man's hand was like a venomous snake with its mouth wide open as it attacked Xiao Chen. Seeing this, Xiao Chen's lips curled into a faint smile. He casually swung the scarlet-edged sword and easily blocked the young man's attack. "You!" Seeing Xiao Chen block his attack so easily, the young man's expression changed drastically. His eyes were filled with disbelief. "Are you surprised that I can block your attack so easily? It wasn't like this before, was it?" Xiao Chen said nonchalantly in the face of the young man's surprise. The two of them had exchanged 50 to 60 blows since the start of the battle. The young man believed that he had a preliminary understanding of Xiao Chen's strength, but at this moment, Xiao Chen blocked his full-powered attack so easily. Naturally, the young man was extremely puzzled. Xiao Chen directly spoke the young man's thoughts. The young man fell silent after hearing Xiao Chen's words. On the other hand, Xiao Chen casually swung his sword without using any martial skills. It was just an ordinary attack. But in the face of this attack, the young man's eyes suddenly widened. It was so fast that the young man could not tell what was going on when Xiao Chen swung his sword. However, when the sword aura was about to hit him, the young man could not help but feel a chill run down his spine. So fast. He muttered softly. His body instinctively leaned to the right, narrowly dodging Xiao Chen's attack. However, the sword aura still cut a small wound on the young man's right cheek. Warm blood flowed out from the wound. At this moment, even if the young man was an idiot, he knew that Xiao Chen actually hadn't used his full strength all this time. Ignoring the young man's astonishment, Xiao Chen slowly walked towards the young man. As he swung his sword, he said indifferently, "You think that the top 10 geniuses are your only opponents and you want to challenge them. However, in my opinion, you are too weak. Even if you were to fight against the weakest of the top 10 geniuses, you would still be defeated instantly." He had never placed the young man in his eyes. What a joke! Although the young man was the son of the devil envoy, that didn't mean that he had the qualifications to challenge the 10 great geniuses. As one of the 10 strongest youths in the heavenly Chen continent, if a random kid from God knows where could challenge them, then it could only be said that the 10 prides were too weak. Just as Xiao Chen had said, with the young man's strength, Not to mention challenging him. Even if he challenged the weakest of the 10 prodigies, the young man was destined to be instantly defeated. Take Fenglingye as an example. Xiaochen had fought with him before, so he could boldly say that if Fenglingye was serious, the young man wouldn't even last for 100 breaths of time. His words were calm, but they were filled with naked contempt. How could a noble young man like him endure such contempt? Since he was young, no one had ever humiliated him like this. Xiaochen, I want you dead. The young man could no longer maintain his calm. However, it was unknown whether the young man was angry because of Xiaochen's words or because he was ashamed of his own lack of strength. In his rage, the young man couldn't care about anything else and directly charged at Xiaochen. Seeing this, Xiaochen slowly pointed his finger and used the June Pure Sword finger. A sword ray flashed and instantly penetrated the young man's right foot. The sword ray directly shattered his kneecap and crippled his right foot. The young man staggered and fell to the ground. Xiaochen didn't stop and slowly walked towards the kneeling young man. Looking down at him, he said indifferently, "In the beginning, I was somewhat interested in your strength. But now, you can no longer arouse my interest." From the beginning until now, Xiaochen had a thorough understanding of the young man's strength. Frankly speaking, the young man's strength left Xiaochen disappointed. Xiaochen paused and tapped his finger gently on the young man's forehead. In an instant, an extreme aura of death enveloped the young man. Staring blankly at Xiaochen's indifferent expression, the young man felt fear and said with a pale face, You can't kill me. My father is a demon envoy, an almighty ruler. If you kill me, my father won't let you off." The young man finally knew what fear was when death truly arrived. At this moment, he used his father to pressure Xiaochen. But, would Xiaochen care about this? "Do you think I'm afraid of your father?" Xiaochen smiled and replied indifferently. Then, he used the June Pure Sword finger and a sword ray instantly penetrated the young man's forehead. In an instant, the young man's soul was destroyed. One had to admit that the young man was desperate. How could Xiaochen be afraid of a demon envoy? So what if he didn't let him off? Xiaochen killed the young man without any hesitation. Looking at the young man whose eyes quickly dimmed, Xiaochen added, "Don't underestimate King Jiao. King Jiao is not someone who can be challenged by anyone." It was a completely one-sided massacre. Seeing the young man die, the demonic cultivators' expressions changed drastically. They knew very well how noble the young man's status was. He was the only son of the demon envoy, but now he had died at the hands of Xiaochen. When they thought of the demon envoy's wrath, they knew they couldn't escape responsibility. In an instant, dozens of Earth Mirror demonic servants attacked Xiaochen, wanting to kill Xiaochen to avenge the young man's death. The demonic cultivators had more people than the heavenly Qin continent. In the face of dozens of Earth Mirror demonic servants' attacks, Xiaochen's expression was calm. He stabbed out with the scarlet-edged sword and instantly ended the life of one of the demonic servants. After killing with one strike, it was Xiaochen's turn to slaughter. Previously, no one could stop the young man, but now, no one could stop Xiaochen. Like a tiger in a flock of sheep, the ordinary Earth Mirror cultivators had no power to fight back in front of Xiaochen. Using the pure June Sword finger, the sword chi of the Great Perfection stage exploded. Under Xiaochen's leadership, the Earth Mirror cultivators of the heavenly Qin continent launched a true counterattack. On the other hand, the demonic cultivators' morale had weakened significantly because of the young man's death. Capture the leader first to capture the bandits. This was the principle. After killing the young man, the demonic cultivators' morale had dropped. Even their own commander had been killed. What a joke! They began to retreat. At the same time, the demon envoy who was fighting the wood ruler above the clouds suddenly changed his expression. The young man who had died at the hands of Xiaochen was his son. The demon envoy's eyes were overflowing with killing intent as he roared angrily. "Xiaochen, you little brat, how dare you kill my son? You're courting death." The demon envoy was furious. His roar fell from the sky, causing everyone's eardrums to hurt. At the same time, a terrifying killing intent and pressure poured down from the sky. 30th update. Brothers, please subscribe. The new book is in urgent need of your support. Chapter 216. The demon envoy was enraged by the death of his only son. Sensing the terrifying killing intent and pressure, Xiaochen, who had already killed over 100 demonic cultivators, calmly looked up at the sky. As far as the eye could see, the demon envoy above the clouds was forcing the heavenly wood ruler back with a punch as if he had gone mad. Then, his body flashed and he rushed toward Xiaochen, intending to kill him with one blow. Following the death of his only son, the demon envoy's murderous intent had reached its peak. Seeing the demon envoy charging toward Xiaochen, the heavenly wood ruler's expression darkened. He had a bad feeling about this, but he still quickly chased after the demon envoy while yelling, "Kill him! If you dare touch him, I'll take you down with me today." The wood ruler's roar was extremely loud, clearly reaching Xiaochen's ears. Xiaochen's heart trembled slightly when he heard this. Everyone knew that the Wood clan and Xiaochen had always had some conflict. However, judging from the Wood ruler's actions, he truly wanted to save Xiaochen. He wasn't putting on an act at all. As expected of a ruler, his breadth of mind was incomparable to ordinary people. Of course, this was also a difference in height. At a ruler's level, small conflicts and grudges were nothing. Now that Xiaochen was one of the 10 great geniuses, the Wood ruler naturally couldn't just watch as Xiaochen died. The Wood heavenly ruler chased after Xiaochen, but he wasn't much faster than the demon envoy. Everyone's heart sank when they saw the demon envoy rushing towards Xiaochen. The demon envoy had already sent a palm strike towards Xiaochen. He wanted to kill Xiaochen even if the Wood ruler had rushed over and heavily injured him. Everyone gasped when they saw the mountainous palm descending from the sky. Just when everyone thought that Xiaochen was doomed, Dao's sovereign Danyan suddenly appeared above Xiaochen's head. With a flick of his finger, a ball of dark red flame shot out. It transformed into a sea of fire that successfully blocked the demon envoy's attack. At the critical moment, Dao's sovereign Danyan had arrived in time to protect Xiaochen. The demon envoy's expression was extremely unsightly when he saw this. A mighty Dao Emperor actually attacked a junior of the luminous mirror realm. TSK, your character really isn't that great, Dao's sovereign Danyan said indifferently with a cold gaze. He stared coldly at Dao's sovereign Danyan. He knew that he couldn't kill Xiaochen now that the Wood ruler had arrived. Under the protection of 2 sovereigns, it was obvious that he couldn't kill Xiaochen. His expression was gloomy. At the same time, the other demon envoy who had been fighting with Dao's sovereign Danyan appeared. The 4 sovereigns clenched their teeth and faced each other. After a while, one of the demon envoys shouted, "Retreat." The current situation was no longer suitable for the battle to continue. Dao Master Danyan's strength was too terrifying. The demon emissary felt that Dao Master Danyan wasn't using his full strength to fight against Dao Master Danyan. Although he didn't know the reason, it wouldn't be worth it if they continued to fight to the death. The demon envoy clearly didn't know that Dao's sovereign Danyan wasn't going all out because he was lazy and didn't want to risk his life. Moreover, Dao's sovereign Danyan's goal from the beginning was to delay the demon envoy. It had to be said that if the heavenly pill ruler knew what Dao's sovereign Danyan was thinking, he would probably fly into a rage. After the demon envoy gave the order to retreat, the army of demonic cultivators retreated in an orderly manner. The demon envoy in the sky also pulled the other demon envoy, who was staring at Xiaochen, away quickly. The 2 demon envoys retreated. At the same time, the 3rd demon envoy, who was fighting with the heavenly pill ruler in the sky, also seized the opportunity to retreat and quickly disappeared into the horizon. The heavenly star continent didn't chase after them. After this battle, the heavenly star continent had suffered heavy casualties, so it wasn't suitable for them to continue chasing. With the appearance of the heavenly pill ruler, the 3 sovereigns stood proudly in the sky. Below them, hundreds of thousands of heavenly star continent martial artists burst into thunderous cheers. Although this battle was extremely tragic, East Pass City was defended against the army of demonic cultivators, which was almost twice their number. This was a great victory for them. The cheers rose and fell. Everyone knew that Xiao Chen and his disciple had contributed greatly to this victory. Whether it was Dao's sovereign Dan Yun or Xiao Chen, if it weren't for the two of them, the outcome of this battle would have been hard to predict. Below them, many people spontaneously gathered around Xiao Chen and threw him high into the air. They also kept shouting, "King Bewitching Sword, King Bewitching Sword." In this battle, Xiao Chen had used his strength to prove the strength of the 10 great prides. So what if he was the son of a demon envoy? So what if he had been taught by a sovereign since he was young? In the face of the 10 great prides, he could only bow his head. Looking at the cheers below, the heavenly wood ruler in the sky smiled at Dao's sovereign Dan Yun. "Dan Yun, you really hid your strength well. After so many years, even I didn't know your true cultivation base." "Ha, Brother Wood, you jest. You know that I only have this mouthful of wine. As for the rest, ha." Upon hearing Hegemen Wood's words, Dao Master Dan Yun returned to his usual drunken state. He no longer had the majesty of an almighty hegemon. He took a sip of wine from his flagon and replied with a chuckle. Seeing Dao's sovereign Dan Yun like this, the heavenly pill ruler was displeased. He snorted and said, "Humph, all you know is to drink. What else do you know besides wine?" Clearly, he was very dissatisfied with Dao's sovereign Dan Yun's laziness and addiction to wine. However, Dao's sovereign Dan Yun didn't take it to heart. He had been like this since he was young and was used to being lazy. It was impossible for him to change. After this great victory, Xiao Chen and the others returned to the city. Only a few people stayed behind to clean up the battlefield. The corpses of the demonic cultivators were dug up and buried, while the corpses of the heavenly Qin continent cultivators were collected and brought back to the city. Then, they were transported back to their hometowns for burial. At the same time, the sovereigns gave a considerable amount of compensation to the families of the dead. Standing on the city wall, Xiao Chen said snappily to Dao Master Dan Yun beside him, "Old drunkard, you really hid your strength well. You're actually a sovereign realm expert." Ha! Dao's sovereign Dan Yun smiled and didn't answer Xiao Chen's question. In fact, if it weren't for the urgency of the situation, Dao's sovereign Dan Yun definitely wouldn't have taken action. Xiao Chen didn't delve into this matter. He watched as the corpses of the heavenly Qin continent cultivators were transported back to the city. His mood was somewhat complicated. So this is war. This was the first time Xiao Chen had experienced a war. At the same time, Dao's sovereign Dan Yun said with a heavy expression, "That's right. This is war. It's an era where human lives are treated like grass. Please add, recommend, vote, reward." Chapter 217. The battle came to an end. In the face of the large-scale invasion of the Xioma cultivators, Eastern Pass City had suffered disastrous casualties. Of the more than 500,000 defenders, more than 100,000 were killed on the spot and no less than 80,000 were seriously injured or disabled. It could be said that after this battle, Eastern Pass City's defenses had been weakened by at least 40%. Of course, the other sovereigns who received this news quickly transferred another 500,000 soldiers from the central Divine region to Eastern Pass City as reinforcements. In an instant, the number of guards guarding Eastern Pass City had increased to 800,000. At the same time, not only East Pass City, the sovereigns also strengthened the defense of the other 3 pass cities and sent reinforcements. At the same time, the sovereigns began to plan a great purge of the demonic cultivators in the 4 regions to counterattack the tragic war in East Pass City. The news of the fierce battle in Eastern Pass City quickly spread throughout the heavenly Qin continent. Xiao Chen and Dao Master Dan Yun's fame was pushed to the peak, especially Dao Master Dan Yun, who was a hidden almighty sovereign. Moreover, his cultivation had reached the great circle of the Dao Emperor realm. This news shocked even the sovereigns. After this battle, Dao Master Dan Yun's cultivation was exposed, which meant that he had officially entered the top ranks of the heavenly Qin continent and was on an equal footing with the sovereigns. At the same time, the people changed the way they addressed Dao Master Dan Yun. They no longer called him Dao Master, but Dan Yun Sovereign. Dao Master Dan Yun and Xiao Chen did not care about the changes in the outside world. They stayed in East Pass City for 5 days because of the Heavenly Pill Sovereign's suggestion. Because East Pass City was going to purge the demonic cultivators in East Sun region, the Heavenly Pill Sovereign suggested that Xiao Chen and Dao Master Dan Yun wait for the start of the purge in East Pass City before heading to Lingshan Commandery City. This way, it would be safer. After all, the demonic cultivators would definitely go into hiding in East Pass City. If they set off for Lingshan Commandery City at that time, they would have less trouble along the way. At least, they would not be surrounded by demonic cultivators. After accepting the Heavenly Pill Dominator's suggestion, they stayed in East Pass City for 5 days. On the 6th day, the sun rose, and the gates of East Pass City opened. Troops of East Pass City guards walked out of the city and advanced into the depths of East Sun region. After 5 days of preparation, the Eastern Pass City's great sweep of the Eastern Sun region had finally begun. The entire Eastern Pass City had mobilized a total of 500,000 people. They were divided into more than 10 teams, and they were advancing towards the hinterland of the Eastern Sun region. The orderly footsteps and the murderous aura gathered by the hundreds of thousands of people accompanied the army out of the city. The entire valley seemed to tremble. The originally spacious valley seemed to have become somewhat narrow and crowded because of the appearance of the hundreds of thousands of people. Standing atop the city walls, Xiao Chen watched as the army set out. Off to the side, Hegeman Woodhaven looked at Hegeman Pillcloud and said, "Pillcloud, be careful. If anything happens, send a message to me in Heaven Pill. The two of us will rush over as soon as possible." The Heavenly Pill ruler and the Heavenly Wood ruler didn't come with him. They had to command this operation, so they couldn't leave. Hearing the Heavenly Wood ruler's words, the Pillcloud ruler nodded slightly. Then, he grabbed Xiao Chen and disappeared into the horizon. After watching Xiao Chen and the Pillcloud ruler leave, the Heavenly Pill ruler and the Heavenly Wood ruler also soared into the sky. This great sweep of East Pass City should at least cripple all the demonic cultivators in the Eastern Sun region. It would be even better if they could kill a demon envoy. Under the lead of the Pillcloud ruler, Xiao Chen and the Heavenly Wood ruler rushed towards Lingshan County City. Perhaps because of the great sweep of East Pass City, Xiao Chen and the Heavenly Wood ruler didn't encounter any demonic cultivators along the way. Obviously, the demonic cultivators had hidden themselves. Their strength was not on the Heavenly Chen continent side. Now that the Heavenly Chen continent was sweeping across the 4 great regions, the demonic cultivators naturally wouldn't be foolish enough to fight head-on. Therefore, the best choice was to hide. With the Pillcloud Dao Master's speed, they should be able to reach Lingshan County City in half a day. While Xiao Chen and the Heavenly Wood ruler were rushing towards Lingshan County City, the news that came from the demonic cultivators in Lingshan County City still made people panic. Fortunately, the Xiao clan appeared and calmed the people down. However, at this moment, Qin Shuru's family was also present in the Xiao clan. The Fallen Cloud City, where the Qin clan resided, had been attacked by the demonic cultivators. Naturally, the Qin clan couldn't resist the demonic cultivators, so they had to seek refuge with the Xiao clan. Xiao Qing didn't refuse the Qin clan's arrival. After accepting the Qin clan settled down in the Xiao clan. They didn't know that Xiao Chen was already on his way to Lingshan County City. At this moment, Qin Shuru's father, Qin Lai, and Xiao Qing were sitting together in the Xiao clan's main hall. From their expressions, it was obvious that they had encountered some trouble. "Brother Xiao, I'm afraid this matter can't be delayed any longer. The situation in the various cities is worsening by the day. We have to come up with a plan," Qin Lai said as he looked at Xiao Qing. From Qin Lai's words, it was obvious that the situation in Lingshan County wasn't optimistic. Back when Xiao Chen became the hidden dragon of the East Sword Pavilion, the royal family of Lingfeng country tried their best to rope in the Xiao clan. After Xiao Chen went to the Central Divine Realm, they even gave the entire Lingshan County to the Xiao clan and made it their territory. As a result, Lingshan County City seemed to have become a country within a country. In this place, the words of the royal family of Lingfeng country were not even as effective as that of the Shao clan. Of course, the royal family of Lingfeng country didn't dare to meddle in the affairs of Lingshan County. Everything was decided by the Shao clan. In a sense, the Shao clan should have become the ruler of Lingfeng country. They had their own territory and army. However, the ruler of the Shao clan was an existence that even the royal family didn't dare to offend. Their status was extraordinary. It was also because of this that the Shao clan developed rapidly. Originally, everything was going smoothly. However, after the outbreak of the war and the appearance of demonic cultivators, everyone was in a state of panic. In Lingshan County, there was a group of people who took advantage of this opportunity to do evil. Now, in the various cities of Lingshan County, a new underworld gang called the Bright Moon Gang suddenly appeared. This gang was basically formed by people who were usually idle. They relied on their martial arts and coincidentally encountered the current chaos of war. They gathered together and wantonly made a fortune from the war. It could be said that they committed all kinds of evil deeds, such as burning, killing, robbing, and committing all kinds of evil deeds. Qin Lai was referring to the Bright Moon Gang. Hearing this, Xiao Qing sighed helplessly and said, "Brother Qin, I know what you're talking about. However, what do you want me to do?" The matter of the Bright Moon Gang wasn't troublesome. The real problem was the internal problems of the Shao clan. Please add, recommend, vote, reward. Chapter 218. There was a problem within the Shao clan, and the source of this problem was Xiao Qing's two younger brothers, Xiao Chen's second uncle and third uncle. Following Xiao Qing's rise, the Shao clan's position in Lingfeng country continued to rise. In front of such great power, there were naturally people who lost their minds. As blood brothers, Xiao Chen's second and third uncles used to be good friends. But now, as the Shao clan grew stronger and stronger, the two of them had the idea of seizing power. Therefore, in the past few years, the two of them had been constantly roping in the members of the Shao clan to expand their influence in the clan. Xiao Qing knew what the two of them were doing and had ways to easily kill the two of them. However, Xiao Qing could not do it in front of his own brothers. The two of them took advantage of this opportunity and became increasingly unscrupulous. In the current Shao clan, Xiao Qing was still the head of the clan and still held great power. However, there were two more rats in the clan, the second and third master of the Shao clan. After many years of fighting, the second master of the Shao clan controlled the financial power of the Shao clan, while the third master of the Shao clan controlled the military power of the Shao clan. In these few years, the Shao clan had formed a Shao clan army with a total of 30,000 people. These 30,000 people only listened to the third master of the Shao clan. Because of this, Xiao Qing could not do anything about the rebellion of the Haoyu gang. The third master of the Shao clan seemed to have some connection with the Haoyu gang, so he was unwilling to send troops to quell the rebellion. The originally united Shao clan gradually cracked because of power. As the head of the clan, Xiao Qing was still unwilling to do anything to his two younger brothers because of their brotherhood. Seeing that Xiao Qing was still unwilling to do anything to the second master and third master of the Shao clan, Qin Lai sighed helplessly. He could not make a decision for Xiao Qing, but if this continued, the Shao clan's outcome could be imagined. Hearing Qin Lai's sigh, Xiao Qing also said helplessly, "Brother Qin, we are all brothers and grew up together. I really can't do it now if you want me to lay my hands on them. However, I will try to talk to them again. I hope that they can rein in the horse before it's too late. After all, the development of the Shao family depends on everyone's hard work. Blindly fighting in the open and covert means brothers killing each other." Xiao Qing still wanted to persuade his two younger brothers to turn back. However, after hearing these words, Qin Lai silently shook his head. How could the two of them, who had already tasted the sweetness of power, listen to advice now? Moreover, Xiao Qing was indeed too soft-hearted in this matter. Time passed by slowly. One evening, Xiao Chen finally arrived at Lingshan City under the guidance of the Pill Cloud Sovereign. However, Xiao Chen frowned slightly even though they were still far away. At the city gate, More than 10 armored soldiers of the Shao clan were gathered in groups of 2s and 3s, chatting and laughing. Not only that, they were even drinking without restraint while on duty. They did not check or question anyone who entered or left the city. They were not soldiers guarding the city gate at all. They were just a bunch of hooligans. They already knew that Ling Mountain Prefecture was the territory of the Shao clan. It could be said that Ling Mountain Prefecture was Shao Chen's home. It was the Shao clan's world. Now that such soldiers had appeared in his own home, Shao Chen was naturally unhappy. Shao Chen and the Pill Cloud ruler landed slowly and quickly arrived at the city gate. They were already standing in front of the soldiers, but these people continued to drink and chat as if they did not see Shao Chen. Furthermore, Shao Chen was even more furious when he heard the content of their conversation. Ah, this widow Wang of the Eastern Street is really something. Her looks and her skills are simply mesmerizing. One of the soldiers said with a lewd smile. Hearing his words, another soldier added, "It's my turn tonight. Her husband was killed by us together. She's such a beautiful woman. Naturally, I have to have some fun. Of course, of course. We work together, of course we have to enjoy it together." Shao Chen listened to the soldiers' conversation quietly. From their words, he quickly understood what they were talking about. To put it simply, these soldiers had their eyes on a woman. However, the woman was already married, so they worked together to kill her husband and take her for themselves. They were worse than beasts. How could such people become the guards of Ling Mountain Prefecture City? What a joke! From their conversation, Shao Chen also had some understanding of the Shao clan army. They were directly managed by the Shao clan. The generals of the Shao clan army were all direct descendants of the Shao clan. Furthermore, the treatment of ordinary soldiers in the Shao clan army was unparalleled in the entire Ling Mountain Prefecture. They received such generous treatment, yet they did such a heartless thing. Hearing this, Shao Chen finally opened his mouth and said indifferently, "You are all soldiers of the Shao clan army?" Hearing this, the soldiers only noticed Shao Chen in front of them. One of them immediately shouted, "Brat, don't court death. If you offend the Shao clan army, you won't have a good life. Scram immediately, or we'll kill you." A mere foundation establishment stage ant actually dared to say that he would kill them? Hearing this, Shao Chen was so angry that he laughed. At the same time, it could be seen how arrogant the soldiers of the Shao clan army were. They were supposed to be soldiers protecting the country, but now they had become a group of hooligans. Of course, this was also because of the Shao clan. In Ling Mountain Prefecture, no one dared to offend them. Even the imperial family did not dare to offend them. With such a backing, the soldiers of the Shao clan army naturally had no scruples and their courage grew by the day. Shao Chen's gaze calmly swept across the group of people. Without any superfluous words, he pressed down with his hand. A terrifying aura descended from the sky and instantly suppressed the dozen or so people. They were merely foundation establishment stage cultivators and could not even be considered as cultivators. Naturally, they were powerless in front of Shao Chen. Feeling the terrifying aura, the dozen or so people's faces instantly changed. They knew that they had offended a big shot. However, when they thought of the Shao clan's position in Ling Mountain Prefecture, they gathered their courage and shouted angrily. "Brat, do you know who we are? We are the Shao clan army. If you dare to offend us in Ling Mountain Prefecture, you will definitely die even if you are a cultivator. That's right, let us go. Otherwise, if the Shao clan finds out, you won't be able to escape even if you have wings." They were absolutely arrogant. Faced with these people's angry shouts, the anger in Shao Chen's heart continued to rise. He even felt a trace of dissatisfaction towards the Shao clan. In just a few years, the Shao clan had actually turned Ling Mountain Prefecture into such a state. Did they think that they could bully the weak just because they were in Ling Mountain Prefecture? Shao Chen's gaze gradually turned cold. Looking at the dozen or so soldiers in front of him, he said indifferently, "I will give you a chance. Call your leader over." Shao Chen wanted to see who the leader of these hooligans was. Who gave these ants the guts to speak to him in such a manner? Please add, recommend, vote, reward. Chapter 219. Hearing Xiao Chen's words, the soldiers were stunned for a moment. But soon, they sneered, "Kid, don't blame us if you're courting death." Although Xiao Chen's strength had shocked the soldiers, they believed that no matter how powerful Xiao Chen was, he would still die if he offended the Xiao family. Xiao Chen couldn't be bothered to talk nonsense with these guys. He released one of the soldiers and asked him to inform the Xiao family clansmen who were in charge of them. As for Xiao Chen, he waited at the city gate. He didn't have to wait for long, at most a quarter of an hour. The soldier who left earlier strode in with a young man. The young man was wearing a shiny silver armor. His face was filled with arrogance. From afar, the soldier pointed at Xiao Chen and shouted, "Sir, it's him. Not only did he injure us, he even insulted the Xiao family. How dare he?" It was obvious that the soldier had exaggerated Xiao Chen's actions. Upon hearing this, the young man looked in the direction the soldier was pointing at. The arrogant look on his face disappeared in an instant when he saw Xiao Chen, and it was replaced by a look of excitement and fear. He was excited because Xiao Chen had returned. He was afraid because of his soldiers. He never thought that his soldiers would offend Xiao Chen. The soldier didn't notice the change in the young man's expression. He was still talking leisurely. Hearing his words, the young man kicked the soldier without hesitation, sending him flying more than 10 meters away. Then, he quickly ran to Xiao Chen and shouted with a complicated expression, "Brother Chen. You still know that I'm your brother Chen? Look at the soldiers you've brought." Xiao Chen shouted coldly in front of the young man. Xiao Chen wasn't familiar with this young man. They had only met a few times in the past. He remembered that this young man was a collateral descendant of the Xiao family. A mere branch family descendant was able to sit in the middle of the Xiao family's army. From this, one could see the Xiao family's current status in Lingshan County. After being berated by Xiao Chen, the young man did not dare to refute in the slightest. He knew very well that a single sentence from Xiao Chen could cause him to fall into eternal damnation. He lowered his head and did not say a word. Seeing this, Xiao Chen said indifferently, "Lock up all these people. No one is to be released without my permission." He gave the order to imprison the soldiers. The young man nodded. Xiao Chen didn't say anything else. He walked into the city with the Pill Cloud ruler. The incident at the city gate was just a small interlude to Xiao Chen. However, it was also because of this incident that Xiao Chen wanted to take a good look at the current state of Lingshan Prefecture City. He wasn't in a hurry to go home. Instead, he strolled around the city, especially the Eastern Street. Xiao Chen wanted to see what happened to the widow Wang that the soldiers had mentioned earlier. Xiao Chen walked all the way to East Street. Along the way, the anger in his heart burned more and more fiercely. Xiao Chen had already seen no less than 10 fights in a short distance of less than a kilometer. It was as if he had come to a city of chaos. There were no laws at all. Violent fights could be seen everywhere. He didn't expect Lingshan Prefecture City to be in such a state. However, despite his anger, Xiao Chen didn't do anything. It wasn't the right time yet. Even if he did something now, it would only treat the symptoms and not the root cause. Moreover, through Xiao Chen's secret observation, he noticed that these robbers all had a crescent-shaped emblem on their chests. Clearly, they were from the same faction. There were other factions doing evil in Lingshan Prefecture City, but the Xiao clan didn't care. However, there was something strange. These people were all commoners without any cultivation. Judging from their clothes, they didn't look like rich people, let alone cultivators. Xiao Chen didn't know about the Haoyu gang. He went all the way to the Eastern Street. After asking around, Xiao Chen finally saw the widow Wang that the soldiers had mentioned. Widow Wang, who used to be quite pretty, now had bruises all over her face. It was obvious that she had been beaten up. Her eyes were lifeless. It seemed that her mind had been damaged. Perhaps her husband's death was too much of a blow to her. She was a beautiful young girl with a happy family, but she had been tortured by those ruffians. Xiao did not say much to Widow Wang. He left her some money and told her that he would seek justice for her. Then, he left. Don't worry. Those people won't come again. As for your husband's death, I will give you an explanation. Don't worry. Xiao said to the Widow Wang softly. Then, he turned around and left. However, just as he reached the door, the Widow Wang, who had been silent with her head lowered, suddenly whispered a word of thanks. This simple word of thanks made Xiao feel even worse. At the same time, his dissatisfaction with the Xiao clan grew. His heart was cold. Fortunately, he had returned. Otherwise, he didn't know what the Xiao clan would become. Faced with unprecedented power, some of the Xiao clan members might have lost their minds. However, it didn't matter. Xiao would fight them back the same way they lost their minds. This time, Xiao would rectify the Xiao clan's reputation. After understanding the situation in Lingshan Prefecture City and seeing the Widow Wang, Xiao and the Pill Cloud Sovereign returned to the Xiao clan. Xiao Chen's sudden return naturally delighted the members of the Xiao clan. However, Xiao Chen's face was cold in the face of the smiling faces of his clansmen. First, he asked someone to arrange a place for the Pill Cloud Sovereign. The Pill Cloud Sovereign obviously wasn't interested in these things. After personally settling down Master Pill Cloud, Xiao Qing, and Qin Lai came to the study. Xiao looked at his father and said, "Father, do you know what the Xiao clan has become?" He didn't beat around the bush and went straight to the point. Xiao thought that Xiao Qing didn't know what the Xiao clan was doing. Who knew that Xiao Qing would laugh bitterly when he heard Xiao Chen's words? "You saw it, Chen-er?" Hearing Xiao Qing's words, Xiao Chen was first stunned. From his tone, Xiao Qing seemed to know everything. Since he knew everything, why did Xiao Qing allow his people to do whatever they wanted? Xiao Chen continued to ask. "Father, you knew about it. Since that's the case, why didn't you stop and punish them?" "Chen-er, I..." Xiao Qing didn't know what to say after hearing Xiao Chen's words. However, unlike Xiao Qing, Qin Lai didn't have any scruples. He immediately told Xiao Chen the truth about the Xiao clan's second master and third master. After hearing Qin Lai's explanation, Xiao Chen quickly understood what was going on. He also found the root of the problem, which was that his two uncles were the ones behind it. Speaking of the issue of updating, some brothers say that it's too slow. However, Wu Feng's writing can't keep up with the brothers' reading. It takes at least an hour to write a chapter, and that's under the premise that he doesn't get stuck. Brothers, on the other hand, can finish a chapter in 10 minutes. Therefore, Wu Feng must be doing his best to update. Let's cut to the chase. Let's talk about the update times that the brothers are most concerned about. From now on, every day at 4 o'clock, at 12 o'clock at noon, at 4 o'clock in the afternoon, and at 7 o'clock and 9 o'clock in the evening. This is Wu Feng's limit. Of course, there will be an explosion of chapters. I hope that the brothers will continue to support Wu Feng. As for the comments in the book review section, I won't reply to them one by one. Chapter 220. Xiao Chen's second and third uncles had been blinded by the power and influence of the Xiao family. Xiao Chen's second and third uncles had been blinded by the power they held. Perhaps they had forgotten that the Xiao family was able to achieve this because of Xiao Chen. Therefore, as long as Xiao Chen was still alive, the power of the Xiao family would never fall into the hands of the two of them. A cold light flashed in Xiao Chen's eyes. Xiao Chen had truly grown up in the past few years in the central divine region. After experiencing many things, Xiao Chen had truly matured. Now, Xiao Chen naturally knew what to do in the face of the Xiao family. "Father, you should rest for the next few days. Leave the rest to me." Xiao Chen knew that his father could not bear to lay his hands on his brothers, so he directly let Xiao Qing rest for 2 days. Hearing Xiao Chen's words, Xiao Qing was silent for a moment before nodding in agreement. He had already guessed what Xiao Chen was going to do next, but Xiao Qing did not stop him. Perhaps Qin Lai had been right all along. His second and third brothers were probably beyond saving. It was just that he could not bear to do it. After finishing their business, Xiaochen and his father went to visit his mother, Zhang Jingxiang. Xiaochen only left after staying at Zhang Jingxiang's place for more than 2 hours. Summon the elders of the Xiao family to see me immediately. After leaving Zhang Jingxiang's place, Xiaochen summoned a guard and ordered. Other than the patriarch of the Xiao family, Xiao Qing, there were 5 elders. These 5 elders were all old members of the Xiao family. They were all Xiao Qing's uncles, which meant that they were Xiao Chen's uncles. At this moment, Xiaochen summoned the 5 elders of the Xiao family. Hearing this, the guard felt that it was strange, but he did not dare to ask too much. After respectfully responding, he quickly left. He arrived at the Xiao clan's main hall first and waited there for about the time it took to brew a cup of tea. The 5 elders of the Xiao clan arrived one after another. All 5 of them had white hair, but because of their cultivation, they did not look like an ordinary old man in his twilight years. Instead, they had white hair and a youthful complexion, and all of them were incomparably healthy. The 5 great elders appeared one after another, secretly sizing up the 5 of them. Xiaochen found that the development of the Xiao clan in the past few years was indeed not bad. Just these 5 great elders alone had actually broken through to the celestial realm. Thinking about it, just a few years ago, Xiaochen did not even have a single celestial realm expert, and now there were actually 5. Seeing the 5 elders, Xiaochen took the initiative to stand up and bow. Grandson Xiaochen pays his respects to the 5 great-granduncles. Chener, there is no need to be so courteous. Knowing that you have returned today, the 5 of us old fellows are overjoyed. Originally, we were thinking of looking for you tomorrow, but who would have thought that you would summon us today, ha. Facing Xiao Chen's bow, the 5 elders were gratified and laughed loudly. In the Xiao clan, the 5 great elders' status was absolutely high. However, because of their old age, they rarely participated in the management of the Xiao clan. As the 5 elders' voice fell, the leading gray-clothed elder smiled and said, Chener, since you have called us here today, there must be something, right? There is no harm in saying it. Thinking about it, we old fellows have not had a good chat with you for a long time. The first elder guessed that Xiaochen must have something today, otherwise, he would not have directly summoned the 5 of them. Hearing the first elder's words, Xiaochen did not stand on ceremony. After asking the 5 of them to sit down, he went straight to the point. 5 great-granduncles, how much do you know about the matters of the clan below? To be honest, we know a little. We have also heard a little about the struggle between your father and his brothers. Hearing this, the second elder replied truthfully. The 5 elders had naturally heard a little about the struggle for power between Xiao Qing and his brothers. However, they did not intervene. Firstly, it was because they were not very interested in these matters. Having lived to their age, unless it was a matter of life and death, the matters of the clan were basically unable to arouse their interest. Secondly, it was also because Xiao Qing had never truly made up his mind to deal with his second and third brothers. Thus, it was even more difficult for the 5 elders to intervene. After all, no matter what, Xiao Qing and his brothers were the relatives of the 5 elders. They were all flesh and blood. As such, it was better to let them deal with it themselves. Alright, since all of you know, then I will say it directly. I want to establish a law enforcement hall that is specifically responsible for upholding the laws of the Xiao clan. For this reason, I would like to invite the 5 great-granduncles to preside over the law enforcement hall. Hearing the second elder's reply, Xiaochen directly opened his mouth and said. He wanted to establish a law enforcement hall, and the only function of this law enforcement hall was to set, uphold, and enforce the laws of the Xiao clan. It had the absolute power to punish any member of the Xiao clan who made a mistake. From the direct clan relatives to the branch family disciples, and even the numerous cultivators who were attached to the Xiao clan, it had the power to punish them. The law enforcement hall's power could be said to be extremely great. And it was precisely because the law enforcement hall had such great power that Xiaochen wanted to invite the 5 great elders to preside over it. In the entire Xiao clan, the 5 great elders were the most prestigious people. At the same time, they were also the most impartial people. They could make everyone in the Shao clan believe in them. Hearing Xiao Chen's words, the 5 great elders were slightly stunned. There was no need for Xiao Chen to explain in detail. The 5 of them already knew what it meant once the law enforcement hall was established. It was the power to control the life and death of countless members of the Shao clan. They looked at each other. In the end, it was the first elder who opened his mouth and said, "Chen, we understand what you mean. However, the 5 of us already have one foot in the coffin. How about this? Your father, Xiao Qing, will be the hall master of the law enforcement hall. The 5 of us will be the deputy hall masters to assist your father. How about that?" Facing Xiao Chen, who did not hesitate to give such great power to the 5 of them, the 5 great elders were not stupid. They clearly understood why the Shao clan had risen today. Therefore, no matter what, they had to let Xiao Chen's line firmly control the power of the Shao clan. Only then would Xiao Chen have a sense of belonging to the Shao clan. Knowing what the 5 of them were thinking, Xiao Chen did not reject this. This was also good. At least it would let his father firmly control the entire Shao clan. The matter was easily settled. The law enforcement hall was established. Xiao Qing would be the hall master, and the 5 great elders would be the deputy hall masters. They would be in charge of all matters of the law enforcement hall. The appointment of the hall master and deputy hall masters had been decided. Next, it was time to choose the members. According to Xiao Chen's plan, the law enforcement hall needed at least 100 members. He asked the 5 great elders to recommend some talents that they felt were suitable. Xiao Chen's requirements for the members of the law enforcement hall were very simple. They must be fair and upright. Only when these points were satisfied would they be considered. After a full 6 hours of discussion, Xiao Chen finally chose 20 people. Although this number was small, it was already enough to support the initial operations of the law enforcement hall. As for slowly increasing the number in the future, this was not a big problem. Everything was basically settled. In the end, Xiao Chen looked at the 5 great elders and said, "5 great uncles, the law enforcement hall has been completely established. Tomorrow morning, 5 great uncles can announce the establishment of the law enforcement hall and its specific powers. Please collect, recommend, vote, reward." Chapter 221. To the members of the Shao clan, the establishment of the law enforcement hall was definitely an earth-shattering event. This was because the establishment of the law enforcement hall meant a great cleansing of the Shao clan. On the second day, after the 5 elders jointly announced the establishment of the law enforcement hall, the entire Shao clan was shaken. From the direct line of descent to the ordinary guards and maids, everyone seemed to have a premonition of something. At the same time, they also guessed that the establishment of the law enforcement hall was most likely pushed forward by Xiao Chen. The entire Shao clan was discussing the law enforcement hall. However, Xiao Chen did not care about this at all. At this moment, in the backyard of the Shao clan, Xiao Chen looked at the 20 Shao clan disciples in front of him. These people were all chosen by the 5 elders from the direct line of descent of the Shao clan. Of course, there were no people from the second master and third master of the Shao clan among them. There were only 20 people. At this moment, when they faced Xiao Chen, they could not help but reveal a trace of worship in their eyes. To them, Xiao Chen was the pride of the Shao clan. Without Xiao Chen, the Shao clan would not exist today. With a faint smile on his face, Xiao Chen swept his gaze across everyone. Finally, he calmly opened his mouth and said, "Do you know the purpose of the establishment of the law enforcement hall?" "We know." Faced with Xiao Chen's question, everyone replied in unison. Obviously, the 5 elders had already explained everything about the law enforcement hall to them. As such, Xiao Chen naturally did not need to waste his breath. With a faint smile, Xiao Chen continued. "All right, then I will give you your first mission today. Investigate the matter of the second master and third master. There is no need to worry, I only want the truth." With the establishment of the Law Enforcement Hall, Xiao Chen's first mission was to investigate the second master and third master. Hearing this, the 20 people present did not have much of a change in expression. It was as if they had already expected this. After replying respectfully, Xiao Chen dismissed everyone. He had already begun to make his move on the second master and third master. After everyone left, Xiao Chen raised his head to look at the horizon and said calmly, "Second uncle, third uncle, I hope you don't seek your own deaths." Xiao Chen had already begun his operation. At the same time, in another part of the Xiao clan's courtyard, which was the residence of the second master of the Xiao clan, the second master and the third master of the Xiao clan were sitting opposite each other in a secret chamber in the courtyard. Both of them looked rather upset. The second master's name was Xiao Mu, and the third master's name was Xiao Feng. Xiao Qing. Xiao Chen. They had already received the news of the Law Enforcement Hall. Moreover, with Xiao Feng and Xiao Mu's status, they obviously knew more inside information. Moreover, they quickly guessed that the main reason Xiao Chen established the Law Enforcement Hall was because of the two of them. Hearing Xiao Feng's words, the second master, Xiao Mu, said after a moment of silence, "Third brother, you should understand Xiao Chen's power. If you ask me, let's just forget about it. Now that Xiao Chen has returned, everything is over." Facing Xiao Chen, Xiao Mu wanted to retreat. There was no other way. Xiao Chen's reputation in the Xiao clan was unparalleled. Now that Xiao Chen had returned, it was almost impossible to fight for power in his hands. He proposed to give up. However, when Xiao Feng heard this, he immediately refused. "Second brother, we have worked so hard for so long. Are you willing to give up now? We are just one step away from forcing Xiao Qing to give up his position. At that time, the entire Xiao clan will be ours. Moreover, we still have the crown prince behind us." Xiao Feng was unwilling to give up. Moreover, he actually mentioned the crown prince. Hearing the crown prince, Xiao Mu's expression also changed. To put it bluntly, the reason why Xiao Feng and Xiao Mu could control the finances of the Xiao clan and the army of the Xiao clan was because of the crown prince's help. This crown prince was naturally the crown prince of the Lingfeng country, Mo Feng. Unlike his father, Mo Yao, as the current crown prince, Mo Feng was like a fishbone stuck in his throat when it came to the Xiao clan of the Lingshan commandery. In fact, this was not surprising. Facing a country that was almost a country within a country, it was believed that no emperor would allow it. It was only because of Xiao Chen's existence that the royal family did not dare to make the slightest move, so there was no other way. Precisely because they did not dare to become enemies with the Xiao family, Emperor Mo Yao chose to befriend the Xiao family. However, Crown Prince Mo Feng was different. He did not choose to follow his father's plan and befriend the Xiao family. Instead, he used another method with the intention of controlling the Xiao family. As for that method, it was to support one of his own to take control of the Xiao family. Without a doubt, Xiao Mu and Xiao Feng were the people Mo Feng chose. Therefore, in these few years, Mo Feng spared no effort to help them seize power. No one would have thought that behind the Xiao clan's internal strife, there was the shadow of the imperial family. Crown Prince Mo Feng was indeed a very ambitious person. He clearly knew that Xiao Chen existed in the Xiao clan, but he still dared to do this. Perhaps his goal was to make the Lingfeng country have only one voice, and that was the imperial family. Hearing Xiao Feng mention the crown prince, Xiao Mu was stunned. Seeing this, Xiao Feng continued. "Second brother, I have already sent a message to His Highness the Crown Prince last night. His Highness the Crown Prince has also replied that he will personally come. Right now, everything has already been prepared. We are only left with this final step. Second brother, at this time, we cannot retreat. Otherwise, everything we have done before will be in vain." Xiao Feng continued to persuade. From his words, it wasn't hard to tell that the two of them had already made all the preparations. They only needed one final strike to successfully remove Xiao Qing from the position of the patriarch. At that time, the Xiao clan's power would be in the hands of the two brothers. Under Xiao Feng's constant persuasion, Xiao Mu finally clenched his teeth and chose to go all out. Just as Xiao Feng and Xiao Mu were having a secret conversation, Crown Prince Mo Feng secretly left the Lingfeng country's imperial capital. He only brought a few dozen personal guards with him. Riding a rank 1 demonic beast, the wind-chasing horse, he quickly rushed towards the Lingshan country. Sitting in the middle of the carriage, Mo Feng's eyes flashed with a hint of coldness as he softly muttered to himself. Xiaochen, I know that you are very powerful. However, since I am the crown prince of the Lingfeng country, I will definitely not allow a country within a country to exist in the Lingfeng country. Therefore, the Xiao clan can only submit to the imperial family. After saying this, Mo Feng closed his eyes and a faint smile hung on the corner of his mouth. Very quickly, the carriage became so silent that one could hear a pin drop. Only the sound of horse hooves could be heard. Begging for collection, begging for recommendation, begging for monthly votes. Chapter 222. The young Mo Feng headed towards Lingshan County with great ambitions. As the first prince of Lingfeng, Mo Feng wanted a completely unified empire. Therefore, he wouldn't allow a clan like the Xiao clan to exist. Of course, Mo Feng wasn't an idiot. He knew how powerful Xiaochen was. However, in Mo Feng's opinion, he wasn't going there to become enemies with Xiaochen. He didn't intend to harm Xiaochen at all. He only wanted to help Xiao Mu and Xiao Feng ascend to the position of clan head. Because of this, Mo Feng dared to do this. Otherwise, with Xiao Chen's status, Mo Feng wouldn't dare to provoke Xiao Chen. Moreover, this matter didn't require Mo Feng's involvement. It was an internal matter of the Xiao clan. Therefore, Xiao Chen's status wasn't very useful. While Mo Feng was rushing towards Lingshan Prefecture, Xiao Mu and Xiao Feng were also making their final preparations. Over the past few years, with Mo Feng's help, the two of them had bought over many members of the Xiao clan. Now, it was finally time for them to strike the final blow. According to Xiao Mu and Xiao Feng's plan, they were going to hold a clan meeting. During this meeting, the two of them would take the lead to impeach Xiao Qing. They would use the clansmen they had roped in over the past few years to force Xiao Qing to step down from the position of clan head. Think about it. If more than half of the direct line of descent agreed to change the clan head, then even Xiao Chen wouldn't be able to say anything. After all, this was the wish of everyone. No matter how great Xiao Chen's reputation was, could he openly oppose all the Xiao clansmen? The matter was being carried out secretly. In addition to contacting the Xiao clansmen, Xiao Feng also secretly mobilized the Xiao clan's army. He gathered the Xiao clan's army from all the cities in Lingshan County. A total of 30,000 soldiers were heading towards Lingshan County. Clearly, Xiao Feng's actions were to use the Xiao clan's army to threaten Xiao Qing and force him to step down. Most of the Xiao clansmen in the famous Xiao clan's army were completely controlled by Xiao Feng and Xiao Mu. At first glance, it seemed that the two of them had victory in their hands. With this kind of power, it shouldn't be difficult for them to seize Xiao Qing's position. However, they clearly didn't notice that while the two of them were secretly moving, Xiao Chen wasn't idle either. He had ordered the law enforcement hall to investigate Xiao Feng and Xiao Mu. 2 days later, Xiao received a lot of information about the two clansmen. You've roped in so many clansmen and secretly mobilized the Xiao clan's army to Lingshan County. Second uncle, third uncle, are you still going to rebel? Xiao Chen didn't care about what the two of them had done in the past. However, what the two of them were doing now made Xiao Chen's heart grow colder. He had already returned, but the two of them still wanted to seize the position of the Xiao clan's head. Looking at the information that the law enforcement hall's members were constantly reporting to him, Xiao Chen had a rough idea of what the two of them were doing. It was nothing more than forcing his father to step down from the position of the Xiao clan's head. He didn't know if it was because he had gone to the central divine region, but Xiao Mu and Xiao Feng's understanding of him was still stuck in the Dongyang region. They still thought that he was just a fledgling junior. Therefore, even if Xiao Chen wanted to give them a chance to change, they still didn't cherish it. A trace of coldness flashed in Xiao Chen's eyes as he slowly walked to the window. He looked at the night sky outside and said indifferently, "We're originally from the same clan. Since you don't care about the brotherhood between you and my father, then don't blame this nephew of yours." After saying that, Xiaochen took out a sound transmission talisman and directly activated it. The sound transmission talisman turned into a white light and disappeared into the void. It was unknown who Xiaochen contacted, but there was no doubt that Xiaochen had begun to make his move. The atmosphere in the Xiao clan was becoming more and more oppressive by the day. Although the Xiao clan didn't seem much different from usual, as long as you carefully felt it, you could clearly feel the oppressive feeling that a storm was coming. Another 2 days passed in peace. Yesterday, Mo Feng secretly arrived at Lingshan County City. Xiao Mu personally arranged a secret residence for him. After that, the three of them discussed. Under Mo Feng's command, the three of them quickly came up with a meticulous plan. It was a plan that could definitely force Xiao Qing to step down from the position of the Xiao clan's head. A storm was coming in the Xiao clan. In the outside world, because of the large-scale sweep in Ningguan City, the news of victory finally came yesterday. The demon envoy hiding in the Dongyang region was jointly attacked by the Heavenly Pill ruler and the Heavenly Wood ruler yesterday. In the end, the demon envoy was seriously injured and even lost an arm to escape with serious injuries. The demon envoy's injury naturally caused the morale of the Dongyang region's demon cultivators to plummet. Moreover, based on the demon envoy's injuries, it was obvious that he wouldn't be able to recover in a short period of time. As a result, the Dongyang region was safe for the time being. After this battle, the Heavenly Qin continent completely controlled all the major cities in the Dongyang region. Even if there were still demon cultivators hiding, they obviously wouldn't be able to cause any big waves. The sweep in the Dongyang region was a complete victory. However, the internal struggle within the Xiao clan had just begun. Chapter 223. In Xiao Chen's opinion, both Xiao Mu and Xiao Feng's methods were too childish. They were not presentable at all. Moreover, it was obvious that they did not understand the power they possessed. Otherwise, they would not have dared to do such a thing even if they were given 100 guts. After bidding farewell to his parents, Xiao Chen returned to his residence. When night fell, an old man appeared in front of Xiao Chen, who was sitting cross-legged on his bed with his eyes closed. This old man was a Tao Querying Realm cultivator. He was an elder of the Heavenly Sword Peak. A few days ago, he received a message from Xiao Chen and immediately rushed to Lingshan City. In the past 2 days, he had been secretly helping Xiao Chen investigate some matters. Now that he had appeared, it was obvious that the old man's investigation had come to a conclusion. Slowly opening his eyes, Xiao Chen smiled at the old man. "Elder Wu, have you found something?" "Lord Jiao, I have indeed found something. That is why I am here to report." Elder Wu nodded respectfully. "Oh? Tell me about it," Xiao Chen said. Compared to the people of the law enforcement hall, Elder Wu was naturally able to investigate more secretive matters with his strength and methods. Therefore, Xiao Chen quickly obtained the answer he wanted from Elder Wu. It had to be said that the people of Lingfeng Nation were much weaker compared to the people of the Central Divine Realm. Not only were they weak in terms of strength, but also in terms of their temperament. They thought that they had done their best to be secretive. However, under Elder Wu's investigation, everything about Xiao Mu and Xiao Feng was exposed to Xiao Chen. Elder Wu even found out about Mo Feng's whereabouts and knew the exact location of Mo Feng in Lingshan City. After listening to Elder Wu's report, Xiao Chen slowly stood up and sneered. "Indeed, there is someone behind second uncle and third uncle. However, to think that it would be Mo Feng. Seems like he is different from his father. His ambition is much bigger. However, it's a pity that he shouldn't have extended his hands to our Xiao family. Let's go, Elder Wu. Let's go meet the Crown Prince of Lingfeng Country, Mo Feng." After understanding Xiao Mu and Xiao Feng's actions in the past few years, Xiao Chen had already guessed that there must be someone helping them. Otherwise, with their abilities, it would have been impossible for them to buy over so many Shao clan members in just a few years, let alone control the entire Shao clan army. It was also because of this that Xiaochen had sent a message to Elder Wu, asking him to rush to Lingshan County to help him investigate in secret. Just as he had expected, Elder Wu was right. Slowly walking out of the room, Elder Wu respectfully followed behind. Following which, under the cover of the night, the two of them secretly left the Shao clan's courtyard. Under Elder Wu's guidance, the two of them rushed towards Mo Feng's residence. The residence that Xiao Mu had arranged for Mo Feng was in Lingshan County City. It was an inconspicuous small courtyard. It was not big and looked very ordinary. It was indeed suitable for hiding. Before entering the courtyard, Xiaochen calmly said to Elder Wu, "Other than Mo Feng, I don't want to see anyone else. I'll have to trouble you, Elder Wu." As the crown prince of a country, Mo Feng naturally had guards by his side. Even though Mo Feng was secretly heading to Lingshan County City, he still had dozens of personal guards protecting him. However, with one sentence from Xiaochen, the fate of these dozens of guards was already decided. Elder Wu nodded slightly and immediately disappeared from where he was. Then, the guards in the courtyard fell one by one. In front of a Dao Querying Realm expert, these Earth Mirror Realm guards did not even have the chance to react. In just a short period of time, all the guards in the courtyard were killed by Elder Wu. Then, Elder Wu opened the courtyard door from the inside and Xiaochen walked in. The small courtyard was filled with corpses. However, Mo Feng, who was in the room, did not know about it. At this moment, Mo Feng was still making the final preparations for tomorrow's plan. Just as he was secretly thinking, the door was suddenly pushed open and Xiaochen, who was dressed in white, slowly walked in. When he saw Xiaochen, Mo Feng was obviously stunned. He obviously did not expect Xiaochen to appear here. Facing Mo Feng's shock, Xiaochen minded his own business and sat down opposite him. Then, he said calmly, "Are you surprised that I'm here?" There was no joy or sadness in Xiaochen's words. Hearing this, Mo Feng's gaze unconsciously looked outside the room. His personal guards had already surrounded the entire courtyard. Since Xiaochen could walk into his room so openly, it meant that, although he had already guessed it, Xiaochen's next sentence still made Mo Feng's heart tremble. "There's no need to look anymore. Your personal guards have already disappeared. Now, let's talk about the matter between us." Dozens of personal guards were mysteriously killed by Xiaochen. Mo Feng unconsciously glanced at Elder Wu, who was standing behind Xiaochen. It was obvious that this old man was a powerhouse. Taking a deep breath, Mo Feng turned his gaze to Xiaochen. He had to admit that Xiaochen's performance had exceeded Mo Feng's expectations. Or rather, it should be said that Mo Feng had completely underestimated Xiaochen. Xiaochen only used a few days to break the trap that he had secretly set up for many years. Mo Feng forced himself to calm down. However, when facing one of the most famous prides in the world, Mo Feng simply could not maintain his calm. "I know what you're thinking, but I just want to tell you that these methods of yours are really not worth mentioning in my opinion. You're still too inexperienced." Mo Feng did not speak, but Xiaochen spoke again. In the eyes of Mo Feng and the others, their plan was foolproof. However, in Xiaochen's eyes, it was simply as childish as a child playing house. After experiencing the baptism of the central divine region for the past few years, Xiaochen was no longer the inexperienced brat from back then. Xiaochen did not have much interest in wasting his breath on Mo Feng. As soon as he finished speaking, he did not wait for Mo Feng to reply. He stood up and walked out of the room. Before he left, he said to Elder Wu without looking back, "Take him down and keep him alive for now." These simple words completely sealed Mo Feng's fate. Looking at Xiaochen's departing figure, Mo Feng finally realized how childish he had been. Everything that he had originally planned was as fragile as a bubble when faced with Xiaochen, bursting at the slightest touch. Perhaps from the beginning, Xiaochen had been watching them jump around as if he was watching a monkey show. This was because no matter how perfect their plan was, Xiaochen could easily destroy it. Only now did Mo Feng realize how naive he had been. He had actually thought of competing with the prides. This was simply the biggest joke in the world. Who was Xiao Chen's opponent? The other 9 prides, who were already standing at the peak of the heavenly Qin continent. As for him, he was merely the crown prince of a small country. There was such a huge gap between the two of them, yet Mo Feng had actually thought of scheming against the Xiao family, scheming against Xiao Chen. Please add, recommend, vote monthly. Chapter 224. However, in Xiao Chen's eyes, this was just a small matter. If it wasn't for his father, Xiao Chen wouldn't even look at Mo Feng because his status was too low. He returned home directly. 15 minutes later, Elder Wu, who had finished dealing with Mo Feng, appeared in front of Xiao Chen. Seeing this, Xiao Chen asked indifferently, "Where is senior brother Qin Heng?" In the previous message, Xiao Chen had contacted Qin Heng and asked him to bring 50,000 experts from East Pass City to Lingshan County City. If it was anyone else, it would be impossible to mobilize 50,000 troops without the approval of a ruler. However, Xiao Chen was different. With his status, the Heavenly Pill ruler and the Heavenly Wood ruler obviously wouldn't refuse. In addition, the situation in East Sun region had already been settled and the 50,000 troops didn't have any missions. Naturally, they would give Xiao Chen face. Hearing Xiao Chen's question, Elder Wu replied, "They will arrive tomorrow morning." Okay. Tell senior brother Qin Heng that the army doesn't need to enter the city tomorrow. He only needs to select 3,000 elites to enter the city. The rest will surround the 30,000 Xiao family soldiers outside the city. Whoever dares to resist will be executed on the spot, Xiao Chen said indifferently. Yes, Elder Wu replied respectfully and then left the room. After a night of silence, the entire Xiao family was bustling with noise and excitement early the next morning. This was because today was the day of the family meeting. The meeting hadn't started yet, but everyone in the Xiao family could roughly guess the content of the meeting. Time passed slowly. One by one, the 18-year-old direct descendants of the Xiao family arrived outside the Xiao family's main hall. Soon, the originally huge main hall was filled with hundreds of direct descendants of the Xiao family. In the end, Xiao Mu and Xiao Feng appeared together. Now, only Xiao Qing was left. Not long after, Xiao Qing also entered the main hall accompanied by the 5 great elders. Thus, the family meeting officially began. It was unknown whether it was because victory was in his hands or because he was too confident, but when he arrived, he didn't even say a word of courtesy. "Everyone, the purpose of this family meeting is to reconsider the appointment of the family head. I feel that Xiao Qing is not suitable to be the family head. What do you all think?" Hearing Xiao Feng's words, a hint of disappointment flashed across Xiao Qing's eyes as he sat on the main seat. Xiao Feng was his own brother, yet he couldn't wait to pull him down. He sighed silently. At the same time, the great elder sitting on Xiao Qing's left shouted angrily, "Xiao Feng's mouth." The first elder's face was full of anger. The 5 elders were firmly on Xiao Qing's side. At the same time, the 5 of them understood that Xiao Feng was digging his own grave by doing this. How could he win against Xiao Chen? Facing the first elder's rebuke, Xiao Feng laughed coldly and said, "First elder, this clan meeting isn't decided by one person alone. It's normal for me to make such a suggestion. Moreover, the ancestral teachings state that the clan leader can be appointed or dismissed during the clan meeting. There shouldn't be a problem with me making such a suggestion, right? Or do you want to go against the ancestral teachings?" Since things had already progressed to this stage, Xiao Feng had clearly shed all pretense of cordiality. Following which, everyone began a meaningless debate. In the end, it was still Xiao Feng's suggestion to directly start voting. The first thing to be decided was the appointment and dismissal of Xiao Qing as the family head. Whoever thinks that Xiao Qing is not suitable to be the family head, please raise your hand. Xiao Feng was the first to raise his right hand. Then, Xiao Mu and their sons also raised their right hands. At the same time, more than half of the Xiao family's direct descendants in the hall also raised their hands. Seeing that these people were really going to dismiss Xiao Qing as the family head, the great elder's face turned red. His eyes were burning with rage. In the end, he pointed at the crowd and said helplessly, "Stupid, these people had obviously been bribed by Xiao Feng and Xiao Mu." The great elder could only use the word stupid to describe their choice. More than half of the people chose to dismiss Xiao Qing as the family head. Xiao Feng and Xiao Mu were also relieved. Just as Xiao Feng was about to announce the result, a calm voice sounded from outside the hall. "I'm still missing a vote in the family meeting, right?" Along with this voice, everyone saw Xiao Chen in a white robe walking in slowly. Seeing Xiao Chen, Xiao Feng frowned slightly. But thinking that the result was already decided, Xiao Feng sneered. "Xiao Chen, you're too late. Can't you see that the situation is already one-sided? Idiot." Hearing Xiao Feng's words, Xiao Chen said coldly. Then, he ignored Xiao Feng and went to the center of the hall. He swept his gaze across the crowd. Looking at these people who had been bribed by Xiao Feng and Xiao Mu, Xiao Chen's eyes were filled with pity. Just as the great elder said, these people were really stupid. Although Xiao Chen didn't know what benefits Xiao Feng and Xiao Mu gave them, their choice could only be described as stupid. Moreover, it was extremely stupid. "You all want to dismiss my father as the family head?" Looking at the crowd, Xiao Chen said indifferently. "Chen, your father's personality is indeed not suitable to be the family head. We are also thinking for the family." Hearing Xiao Chen's words, Xiao Chen's confidant, who was also Xiao Chen's senior, put on an act. His expression was as though he was really thinking for the family. Extremely hypocritical. However, Xiao Chen wasn't angry. There was no point in arguing with these idiots. Xiao Chen smiled and continued. "What about you all? Do you all have the same intention? Are you all determined to dismiss my father as family head?" He continued to ask the people who hadn't spoken yet. However, facing Xiao Chen's question, these people all chose to remain silent. However, although no one answered Xiao Chen's question, they still didn't put down their hands. Very clearly, they still chose to stand on Xiao Feng and Xiao Mu's side. Seeing this, Xiao Chen smiled. His tone was still as calm as before. "Okay, since it's like this, my father and I will withdraw from the Xiao family. You all can let whoever you want be the family head." Xiao Chen chose to withdraw from the Xiao family. Hearing this, Xiao Mu, Xiao Feng and the people who supported them were stunned at first. However, very quickly, they secretly rejoiced. No one would have thought that Xiao Chen would actually choose to withdraw from the Xiao family. Moreover, he was withdrawing from the family head. In this way, there would be no obstruction to the family head position. Xiao Feng and Xiao Mu would be able to smoothly sit on the family head position. They didn't think that things would go so smoothly. Xiao Chen was actually so easy to talk to. However, compared to everyone's joy, the first elder on the high seat immediately said, "Chen, don't cause trouble. Begging for collection, begging for monthly votes, begging for recommendations." Chapter 225. While everyone was secretly rejoicing, the first elder spoke out against Xiao Chen's line leaving the Xiao family. Xiao Feng sneered when he heard the first elder's words. "First elder, what do you mean by this? Since Xiao Chen's line no longer has any feelings for the Xiao family, why force them to stay?" Xiao Chen's line leaving the Xiao family was definitely great news for Xiao Feng. Thus, he naturally wouldn't allow the first elder to ruin his good fortune. Xiao Mu chimed in when Xiao Feng finished speaking. "That's right. Forcefully picked melons are not sweet. First elder, since Xiao Chen's line no longer has any feelings for the family, then let them leave." "That's right. First elder, there's no need to force them to stay." "That's right. Leaving the family is a disgraceful thing to do. Since Xiao Chen's line wants to leave, then let them leave." Xiao Feng and Xiao Mu spoke out one after another. Soon after, their trusted aides spoke out as well. Xiaochen had taken the initiative to leave the Xiao family. How could they give Xiaochen the chance to return? Xiao Chen's eyes were full of sarcasm as he watched these people spouting nonsense. On the other hand, among the 5 elders sitting on the high seats, not only the great elder, but also the other 4 elders were glaring at Xiaochen in anger. Idiots! You bunch of idiots! How can you be so ignorant? So stupid! The 5th elder was the first to speak out. Following the 5th elder's furious curses, the other 4 elders also began to curse. Beyond stupid. Beyond stupid. You're worse than pigs. You can't even understand such a simple matter. You bunch of good-for-nothings. The 5 elders began to curse one after another. Hearing this, some of the neutral clansmen also spoke out. Elders, what's wrong? You don't have to be so angry. Xiao Chen's line wants to leave the Xiao family. They're doing it voluntarily. These neutral clansmen hadn't sided with Xiao Mu and Xiao Feng. However, they were displeased when Xiaochen said that he wanted to leave the Xiao family. In their opinion, Xiaochen didn't put the family in his eyes. Since Xiaochen wanted to leave the Xiao family, then let him leave. Because they were displeased, these people didn't agree with the 5 elders' persuasion of Xiaochen. Could it be that the Xiao family had to beg a junior? Everyone present didn't seem to agree with the 5 elders' persuasion. Sensing this change, Xiao Mu and Xiao Feng were wild with joy. Xiaochen had no way out. Today, he had no choice but to leave. Once Xiaochen's line left the Xiao family, then the position of the family head would belong to the 2 brothers. At that time, they would hold the power of the Xiao family and control the entire Lingshan County. They would be a royal family. In their hearts, they were already imagining the scene of ascending to the position of patriarch. However, in the next second, the great elder's words instantly caused the faces of everyone present to change greatly. The people who were still clamoring all chose to remain silent, only to hear the great elder's clear voice. All of you, shut up. You bunch of idiots. Let me ask you, who brought everything to the Xiao family today? The cultivation resources given to the Xiao family every month by the major forces of the Eastern Sun region for free, the huge Lingshan County, and the protection given to the Xiao family by the various forces. Think about it carefully. Who brought all of this to the Xiao family? This old man can clearly tell you that if Xiaochen leaves the Xiao family today, then the cultivation resources given to the Xiao family every month by the major forces will immediately stop. Lingshan County will also quickly be taken back by the imperial family of the Lingfeng country. Furthermore, the various forces will no longer provide any protection to the Xiao family. The entire Xiao family will instantly return to its original state and become a small family that can only live in a remote corner. At that time, do you think there will be any meaning in the position of the family head? The 1st elder's reprimand was like a bucket of cold water being poured over their heads. It instantly sobered all the Xiao family members present. Yes, everything that the Xiao family had now was brought to the Xiao family by Xiaochen. Once Xiaochen leaves the Xiao family, the entire Xiao family will instantly return to its original state. At that time, they might not even be able to defend Lingshan County City, let alone rule over a region. Without Xiaochen, would the major forces of the Eastern Sun region continue to help the Xiao family? Obviously not. Would the imperial family of the Lingfeng country still be incomparably respectful to the Xiao family? Obviously not. The crowd, who were originally in high spirits, suddenly fell silent as if someone had choked them. They looked at each other. It was only now that they realized what Xiaochen meant to the Xiao family. It was no exaggeration to say that the Xiao family had prospered because of Xiaochen alone, but it could also decline because of Xiaochen alone. With Xiaochen around, the Xiao family was unprecedentedly prosperous. Without Xiaochen, the Xiao family was nothing. Xiaochen did not care about the expressions of the crowd. He turned to look at Xiaoqing, who had a complicated expression on his face, and said indifferently, "Father, let's go. Today, I will bring all of you to the central divine region. I will not return in the future. There is no need for such a family." After saying that, Xiao Chen prepared to leave. Seeing this, the expressions of the many family members present, including those who supported Xiao Mu and Xiao Feng, changed. What kind of joke was this? How could Xiao Chen leave? What would happen to the Xiao family if he left? What was the point of having a clan head who didn't have the slightest bit of power? The Great Elder is right. We are really stupid. We actually wanted to fight for the position of patriarch, said a member of the Xiao family who had once supported Xiao Mu and Xiao Feng gloomily. They had been lying to themselves from the very beginning. The position of the head of the Xiao clan, was tempting because of Xiao Chen. Without Xiao Chen, the position of the head of the Xiao clan was not even worth mentioning. Chen. Seeing that Xiao Chen was about to leave, someone immediately called out. However, Xiao Chen did not care about it. Seeing that Xiao Chen was determined to leave the Xiao family, the crowd became anxious. A middle-aged man of the same generation as Xiao Chen's uncle clenched his teeth and knelt down in the hall. His face was filled with regret. Chen, uncle was wrong. The Xiao family is proud because of you. However, we were blinded by power. It is my fault. Stay. The Xiao family cannot do without you, Chen. As the middle-aged man knelt down, more than half of the clan members present knelt down in front of Xiao Chen and tried to persuade him with remorseful expressions. At this moment, they finally realized how important Xiao Chen was to the Xiao clan. These people were basically Xiao Chen's uncles. They were of the same generation as Xiao Qing. However, this was not the end. The 5 elders on the high seats also stood up and knelt down in front of Xiao Chen. The Great Elder who led the group said, Chen, no matter what, the Xiao family is still your family. You cannot abandon your family. Xiao Chen could choose to ignore the kneeling of others. However, Xiao Chen respected the 5 elders very much. He turned around and walked to the Great Elder and personally helped him up. Great Uncle, what are you doing? Please add me to your collection. Please recommend me. Chapter 226. As Xiao Qing's uncles and Xiao Chen's uncles, the 5 elders all knelt down in front of Xiao Chen. Xiao Chen naturally couldn't ignore this and personally helped the 5 elders up. Xiao Chen said with a complicated expression, Grand Uncle, what are you doing? After being helped up by Xiao Chen, the first elder looked at Xiao Chen and said with a serious expression, Chen, the Xiao family can't do without you. Moreover, this will always be your home. You can't leave. The first elder knew very well what Xiao Chen's departure meant to the Xiao family. Hearing the first elder's words, Xiao Chen nodded slightly. Seeing this, the first elder relaxed. In the end, Xiao Chen didn't leave the Xiao family. Everyone in the Xiao family was naturally very excited about this. Only Xiao Mu, Xiao Feng, and the others had ashen expressions. How could they not know that everything was over? Xiao Chen calmly looked at Xiao Mu, Xiao Feng, and the others. From the beginning, he didn't put them in his eyes. They were just 2 clowns. To be honest, as long as Xiao Chen was still alive, no one would be able to take away the Xiao family's patriarch's position. It was such a simple logic, but it was laughable that these 2 couldn't understand it. Since they had chosen to stay in the Xiao family and the Xiao family had realized the importance of Xiao Chen, the following matters were simple. The Xiao family members who were originally neutral all fell to Xiao Chen's side one by one. They stood firmly on the same side as Xiao Chen. As for the people who were originally loyal to Xiao Mu and Xiao Feng, they were constantly thinking about how to cut ties with the Xiao family. It could be said that in less than 15 minutes, Xiao Chen had completely turned the situation around. The current Xiao family could be said to be under Xiao Chen's control. As long as Xiao Chen said a word, the fate of any Xiao family member could be changed, including the 5 elders. Xiao Chen calmly looked at Xiao Mu and Xiao Feng. When they felt Xiao Chen's gaze, their hearts tightened. At this critical moment, Xiao Mu reacted first. He immediately knelt down in front of Xiao Chen and pretended to be regretful. Chen, second uncle knows his mistake. Faced with a situation where he had no chance of winning, Xiao Mu chose to admit his mistake. At the same time, seeing Xiao Mu's actions, Xiao Feng and their sons knelt down in front of Xiao Chen, crying and begging. A look of disdain flashed across Xiao Chen's eyes. Looking at the two crying people, Xiao Chen knew that he could not be soft-hearted. These two were born to be rebellious. If he spared them today, something like this would definitely happen again in the future. Seeing that Xiao Chen's expression did not change in the slightest because of their crying and begging, Xiao Qing wanted to plead for them, but he could not open his mouth. As a father, he naturally knew what Xiao Chen was thinking. Everyone thought that Xiao Chen was going to kill the two of them. However, in the end, Xiao Chen gave up on the idea of killing them and said with a sigh, "Forget it. Father has pleaded for you too many times. No matter what, the two of you are still my blood-related uncles." Hearing Xiao Chen's words, Xiao Mu and Xiao Feng were delighted. It seemed that Xiao Chen still cared about family at the last moment. But at this moment, Xiao Chen continued. "However, although you can avoid the death penalty, you can't escape punishment. Everyone in your bloodline will cripple their own cultivation and spend the rest of their lives in the Xiao family." He spared the two of them, but he wanted to cripple the cultivation of everyone in their branch and put them under house arrest. Hearing Xiao Chen's words, Xiao Mu and Xiao Feng's faces, which had just recovered a little, instantly turned pale. Not only would they be crippled, but they would also be put under house arrest until they died. In other words, from now on, not only would they have to stay away from the Xiao family's power center, but they would also be unable to cultivate. They wouldn't even have freedom. Their every move would be under Xiao Chen's supervision. This was already Xiao Chen's bottom line. Originally, according to Xiao Chen's plan, Xiao Mu and Xiao Feng couldn't be spared. But when he thought of his father's many requests, Xiao Chen finally chose to take a step back. And this was the result of Xiao Chen taking a step back. He could spare their lives, but Xiao Chen had to ensure that the two of them wouldn't pose any threat to the Xiao family in the future. So he crippled their cultivation and put them under house arrest forever. Not only Xiao Mu and Xiao Feng, but the other members of the Xiao family were also stunned at this moment. They clearly didn't think that Xiao Chen would be so decisive. Unlike his father, Xiao Chen would never leave the slightest potential threat by his side. Because this was something that only an idiot would do. Since he determined that Xiao Mu and Xiao Feng were threats and couldn't be killed, he could only firmly suppress them under his 5 fingers. For a moment, they couldn't accept this result. Xiao Mu and Xiao Feng turned to cry and beg Xiao Qing and the 5 elders, hoping that they could stand out and plead for mercy. Unfortunately, their cries didn't have any effect. Whether it was Xiao Qing or the 5 elders, they all knew that this was Xiao Chen's bottom line. It couldn't be changed, so the 6 of them remained silent. "Do you want to do it yourselves, or do you want me to help you?" Without wasting any more time, Xiao Chen said indifferently. Seeing that Xiao Chen had already made up his mind, Xiao Mu and Xiao Feng immediately went crazy, crippling their cultivation and putting them under house arrest for the rest of their lives. How could they accept this? Immediately, the two of them exploded and looked at Xiao Chen angrily as they shouted. "Xiao Chen, the two of us are your uncles. How could you be so ruthless? Today, we'll fight you to the death." After speaking, the two of them directly charged at Xiao Chen. Right now, only by taking down Xiao Chen would they have a chance to turn things around. They were going all out. However, in the face of their final madness, Xiao Chen's eyes flashed with disdain. At the same time, the moment the two of them exploded, Elder Wu appeared beside Xiao Chen out of thin air. With a slap, he instantly crippled the cultivation of the two of them. How could he not be prepared? After Elder Wu appeared, Qin Heng also appeared outside the hall with 3,000 elite warriors. These people were all arranged by Xiao Chen. Slowly walking in front of Xiao Mu and Xiao Feng, whose cultivation had been crippled, Xiao Chen said indifferently, "I gave you a chance. Unfortunately, you didn't take it. From the moment you made your choice, the result was already decided." After speaking, Xiao Chen suddenly shouted coldly, "Cripple their cultivation and imprison them in the western courtyard. They will never be able to leave." Following Xiao Chen's order, the 3,000 warriors brought by Qin Heng immediately acted. Screams rose and fell in the hall. In just a short time, the cultivation of Xiao Mu and Xiao Feng's people had been crippled. They were all taken to the western courtyard with ashen faces. They would never be able to leave. Please add, recommend, vote. Chapter 227. Xiao Chen was decisive. He didn't give Xiao Mu, Xiao Feng, and the others any chance. Sparing their lives was already Xiao Chen's biggest concession. Seeing Xiao Mu and Xiao Feng being dragged out of the hall, none of the Xiao clansmen present dared to plead for mercy. After today's events, they clearly understood that from today onwards, there would only be one voice in the Xiao clan. No one could refute it. After dealing with Xiao Mu and Xiao Feng, Xiao Chen dismissed the crowd. The clan meeting had come to an end. However, the Xiao clan's turmoil didn't stop. On the contrary, it was only the beginning. On the second day after Xiao Mu and Xiao Feng were crippled of their cultivation and imprisoned in the western courtyard, Xiao Chen gave an order to demote Xiao Mu and Xiao Feng's direct relatives to branch family members. They were also removed from the Xiao clan's power center. Although these people were only vassals of Xiao Mu and Xiao Feng, Xiao Chen didn't keep them. After being demoted to branch family members, their status naturally dropped a lot. Some of them were even sent to the border by Xiao Chen. They weren't even qualified to stay in Lingshan Prefecture City. Almost a third of the direct descendants had been demoted to collateral relatives because of Xiao Feng and Xiao Mu. After dealing with these people, Xiao Chen selected some of the collateral relatives to be promoted to direct descendants to make up for the loss of these people. Of course, the people Xiao Chen selected were all clansmen who stood on his side. In 5 days, the Xiao clan went through a huge change. The direct relatives were demoted to branch family members and the branch family members were included in the direct family. After this series of changes, the entire Xiao clan structure went through an earth-shattering change. In the face of this change, everyone could see that the Xiao clan was now completely under Xiao Chen's control. Not to mention other things, just the direct relatives of the Xiao clan were all loyal to Xiao Chen. It was also this group of people who completely controlled the Xiao clan. In such a short period of time, Xiao Chen forged the Xiao clan into an iron bucket. While Xiao Chen was dealing with these matters, the emperor of Lingfeng country, Mo Yao, personally came to Lingshan Prefecture City. He was accompanied by a group of nobles from Lingfeng country. It was obvious that they were here for Mo Feng. Over the past 5 days, they had found out about Mo Feng's trip to Lingshan County City and that Mo Feng had secretly interfered with the internal strife of the Xiao clan. After hearing this news, Mo Yao's first reaction was stupidity. He scolded Mo Feng's stupidity. What right did he have to interfere with the Xiao family's matters? Was the Xiao clan someone he could offend? Mo Yao was furious, but no matter what, Mo Feng was still his son. Therefore, he had no choice but to personally go to Lingshan City and prepare a generous gift, hoping that Xiao Chen would be lenient and let Mo Feng live. The group arrived at the Xiao residence with uneasy hearts. In the main hall, Mo Yao once again saw Xiao Chen. He was different from a few years ago. The current Xiao Chen was clearly more mature. Moreover, the aura he gave off was even more dignified. The youthfulness from before had completely disappeared. Sitting on the main seat and looking down at Mo Yao, Xiao Chen said indifferently. Mo Feng arbitrarily interfered with the matters of the Xiao clan. I can let him go on account of Mo Jie. However, this is your Mo clan's last chance. If there is a next time, even if Mo Jie asks, I will definitely destroy your Mo clan. Xiao Chen had already guessed Mo Yao's purpose for coming here. Therefore, he did not waste any time and directly spoke. As soon as he finished speaking, Qin Heng and 2 other heaven-tier cultivators walked in with Mo Feng, whose cultivation had been crippled. They casually threw him in front of Mo Yao. Mo Feng's cultivation had been completely crippled and his face was pale. It could be said that from now on, Mo Feng would be a cripple. However, Mo Yao was not the least bit angry about this. On the contrary, he repeatedly expressed his thanks. There was no other way. He did not have the qualifications to negotiate with Xiao Chen. Although Mo Yao was the ruler of a country, in Xiao Chen's eyes, he was nothing. Therefore, Mo Yao was already very satisfied that Mo Feng was able to keep his life. After presenting a generous gift to the Xiao clan, Mo Yao then left with Mo Feng. As for Mo Feng, after experiencing the incident in Lingshan Prefecture City, he should be well behaved. The matters of the Mo clan were not worth mentioning to Xiao Chen. If it were not for Mo Jia, Xiao Chen's army could directly destroy the entire Lingfeng country with just one word. Although the 50,000 soldiers brought by Qin Heng were few in number, the people in this army were all cultivators from the divine realm of the Central Plains. Almost all of their cultivations were at the heaven tier. An army of 50,000 made up of celestial realm martial artists was naturally not something a small and remote country like Lingfeng Kingdom could contend with. After Mo Yao and the others left, Xiao Chen looked at Qin Heng and asked, "How are things with the Xiao clan army?" A few days ago, when he was purging the Xiao clan, Xiao Chen had asked Qin Heng to train the Xiao clan army again. After all, this was the personal army of the Xiao clan. The previous state was naturally not good. Some of the black sheep had to be removed. Hearing Xiao Chen's question, Qin Heng replied, "It's almost done. However, it may take some time to train them into elite soldiers." However, after some reorganization, the Xiao clan army is only left with 20,000 men. The Xiao clan army, which originally had 30,000 men, was reduced to 20,000 under Xiao Chen's request. Some of the black sheep with bad character were all removed. Hearing Qin Heng's reply, Xiao Chen said indifferently, "No matter, 20,000 men is enough. As for training, we can take it slowly in the future. Oh right, it's time to clean up the Bright Moon gang in Lingshan County. Let the Xiao clan army go. It's a good opportunity to train." The Bright Moon gang was a gang in the underworld. For the current Xiao clan army, it was a good opportunity to train. Hearing Xiao Chen's words, Qin Heng nodded and went to make arrangements. Regarding the Xiao clan army, Xiao Chen handed it all to Qin Heng. Qin Heng had been stationed in the Eastern Pass City for such a long time. He was obviously better at managing the army than he was, and Xiao Chen trusted Qin Heng. After dealing with these matters, there was only one last thing left, and that was to pay respects to the ancestors. Every year, the Xiao clan would pay respects to their ancestors, and this year's ceremony was 3 days later. For any clan, paying respects to their ancestors was a major event, and they couldn't be careless in the slightest. Therefore, for the next few days, the entire Xiao clan was busy with this matter. Although it was very complicated, the current Xiao clan had changed greatly. Under Xiao Qing's command, everything was proceeding smoothly. 3 days later, in the morning, at the back mountain of the Xiao clan, many members of the Xiao clan gathered together to prepare to pay respects to the ancestors. Begging for collection, begging for monthly votes, begging for recommendation. Chapter 228. The back mountain of the Xiao family was not big, but it was the ancestral land of the Xiao family. According to the records of the Xiao family's ancestors, the Xiao family started from here. Moreover, during the time of the Xiao family's ancestors, there was no Lingshan County here, not even the Lingfeng Kingdom. It could be said that the history of the Xiao family was even longer than the Lingfeng Kingdom. As the head of the family, Xiao Qing stood at the head of the table. Xiao Chen and his mother, Bai Ruyue, stood on his left. As for the 5 elders, they stood on his right. Behind them were the many members of the Xiao family. Of course, the direct descendants stood at the front, while the collateral relatives stood at the back. When the time came, the great elder shouted loudly, "Let the ancestral worship begin." After the shout, the Xiao family's ancestral worship, which had been done countless times, officially began. The entire process of the ancestral worship had never changed. Therefore, many members of the Xiao family were very familiar with it, including Xiao Chen. Everything was going smoothly. However, at that moment, Xiaochen suddenly felt that the mysterious beast skin in his storage ring had begun to emit a faint purple light. Xiaochen had bought this beast skin in the Nine Firmaments market of the Nine Firmaments Palace. Back then, Xiaochen had bought it because his bloodline had reacted. However, after studying it many times, he could not find any clues. Xiaochen had gradually forgotten about it. Who would have thought that the beast skin would actually react now? He was puzzled. At the same time, as time passed, the light on the mysterious beast skin became more and more dazzling. In the end, the entire beast skin seemed to have turned into a purple dot of light. Moreover, it had directly rushed out of his storage ring. It had forcefully rushed out of the storage ring. Everyone present saw a purple dot of light quickly flying out from Xiaochen's storage ring. Then, it instantly entered the Xiao family's ancestral land and disappeared. What's going on? That dot of light disappeared? It didn't disappear. I think I saw it enter the ancestral land. Many of the heads of the Xiao clan saw the purple light spot and witnessed it entering the ancestral land. Such an unforeseen event caused everyone to discuss in whispers. At the same time, almost everyone looked at Xiaochen because they saw the purple light spot flying out from Xiaochen's storage ring. Even Xiaoqing looked at Xiaochen strangely and asked, "Chener, this?" Xiaochen felt helpless under the gaze of his father and the other clansmen. He didn't know what was going on either. He had come across this animal skin by accident. After studying it for so long, even he couldn't find any clues. He didn't know how to explain this to his clansmen. It was at this moment that someone suddenly shouted, "Look!" Following this person's shout, everyone's gaze shifted to the ancestral land. They saw that the mountain behind the ancestral land, which was originally not very big, had two stone pillars rising from the top of the mountain. It was as though they grew directly from the ground. As the two stone pillars appeared, a purple light connected the two stone pillars, and in an instant, a light door was formed. This is, facing the light door formed by the purple light, everyone couldn't remain calm. What's going on? There was actually a light door hidden in the Xiao clan's ancestral land, and no one in the Xiao clan had discovered it after so many years? Like the other clansmen, Xiaochen was incomparably shocked. However, Xiaochen vaguely guessed that the appearance of the purple light was probably related to the mysterious animal skin. Or perhaps, the purple light door was formed by the mysterious animal skin. The first time he met it, he vaguely felt that the mysterious animal skin was related to him. Now, it seemed that it was indeed the case. Not only was it related to him, but it was also related to the entire Xiao clan. This sudden turn of events forced the ancestral worship ceremony to pause. Just as everyone stared at the purple light door in horror, a ray of light shrouded Xiaochen in an instant. Under the purple light, Xiaochen couldn't resist at all. It was as though he was suppressed by an inexplicable power. Not only his body, but even his soul was suppressed. Unable to resist, Xiaochen's body slowly rose into the air as though he was being forcefully sucked into the light door. His entire body was uncontrollably sucked into the light door and disappeared. After watching Xiaochen disappear, Xiaoqing immediately rushed toward the purple light door. Although he didn't know what the purple light door was, Xiaochen's disappearance made Xiaoqing panic for a moment. He wanted to rush into the light door to rescue Xiaochen, but it was a pity that Xiaoqing couldn't get close to the light door at all. He couldn't even reach the foot of the mountain. The entire Xiao clan's ancestral land seemed to be shrouded in a layer of terrifying restriction that no one could approach. After several attempts, he still couldn't get close to the ancestral land. In the end, even the Pill Cloud ruler appeared. He was also attracted by the sudden appearance of the purple light door. The Pill Cloud ruler appeared and stared at the purple light door at the top of the mountain. He seemed to have thought of something, but he couldn't be sure. He stood at the foot of the mountain for a long time without saying a word. "Senior, what's going on?" "Chener has been sucked into the purple light door." Xiaoqing stood beside the Pill Cloud ruler with an anxious expression and asked anxiously. He was extremely worried about Xiaochen's safety, but the Pill Cloud ruler acted as though he didn't hear anything. After a moment of silence, the Pill Cloud ruler struck out with a seemingly casual palm strike. However, the terrifying pressure sent the Shao clan's patriarch flying far away. The Pill Cloud ruler wasn't sure what the purple light door was, but since Xiaochen had been sucked in, he naturally had to act. He tried to break the restriction that enveloped the entire mountain, but the restriction didn't budge in the slightest in the face of the full-force attack of a sovereign at the peak of the Dao Emperor realm. The attack didn't do any damage to the Dao at all. Even the Pill Cloud Dominator frowned when he saw that. To be able to set up a restriction that even a sovereign couldn't break, he tried a few more times, but to no avail. Seeing that even the Pill Cloud ruler couldn't do anything, Shao Qing and Bai Ruyue grew even more worried. Just when everyone was worried, Xiaochen, who had been forcibly sucked into the Door of Light, seemed to have arrived at an underground tomb. There were green stone walls all around, and there were several luminous pearls on the ceiling that constantly emitted a faint white light. There was also a tombstone that was about the height of a person in the middle of the tomb. The words on the tombstone were already blurred and unrecognizable. However, there was also a green stone coffin behind the tombstone. There were 4 lifelike statues at the 4 corners of the stone coffin, guarding the 4 corners of the stone coffin like soldiers. Please add, recommend, vote. Chapter 229. Looking at everything in front of him, Xiaochen forced himself to calm down. He couldn't help but look at the 4 sacred beast statues. Xiaochen whispered to himself. These are the 4 sacred beasts. Azure Dragon, White Tiger, Vermilion Bird, and Black Tortoise. These were the legendary 4 sacred beasts in the heavenly Qin continent. Now, a stone coffin was guarded by 4 sacred beasts. This was really, Xiaochen withdrew his gaze from the statues of the 4 sacred beasts and carefully looked at everything around him. After a while, Xiaochen was sure that he was in an underground tomb. The area was not very large, and there did not seem to be anything strange about it. It was a very ordinary underground tomb, except for the statues of the 4 sacred beasts at the 4 corners of the sarcophagus. He didn't know why he was brought here by the purple light door, and where was this place? Could it be the underground of the Shao family's ancestral land? If that was the case, wouldn't it mean that the person buried here was his ancestor? But after so many years, if there was an underground tomb in the Shao family's ancestral land, why didn't anyone in the Shao family discover it? After pondering for a long time, he still couldn't come up with a definite answer. At the same time, Xiaochen also looked around to see if there was an exit. Unfortunately, this underground tomb was completely sealed. Not to mention an exit, there wasn't even a mouse hole. There was no exit. He also tried to use brute force to break the surrounding green stone walls, but unfortunately, these seemingly ordinary green stone walls were unbelievably hard. Even the scarlet edge sword couldn't leave a mark on them. There was no way out. In the end, Xiaochen could only think of other ways. He walked slowly to the front of the tombstone. If he wanted to leave, he had to at least know who was buried here. Xiaochen? After carefully staring at the tombstone for a while, Xiaochen could only see the 2 words Xiaochen clearly. He didn't know what these 2 words represented. Was it a person's name or something else? Xiaochen couldn't confirm the identity of the tomb owner, but from the 2 words Xiaosheng, he guessed that this so-called Xiaosheng was probably the ancestor of the Shao family. But it was strange. Was there a person named Xiaosheng in the Shao family's genealogy? At least in Xiaochen's memory, he had no impression of it at all. Just as Xiaochen was at his wit's end, the 4 statues exploded at the same time. At the same time, 4 rays of light, purple, green, red, and white, shot towards Xiaochen. Without giving Xiaochen any time to react, the 4 rays of light entered Xiaochen's body. The 4-colored light entered Xiaochen's body. In the blink of an eye, an intense pain instantly engulfed Xiaochen's entire body. A bone-deep chill continued to rise. This kind of pain was definitely the most intense Xiaochen had ever experienced in his life. Moreover, while enduring this intense pain, Xiaochen realized that he couldn't pass out. Not only did he have to maintain absolute consciousness, but he also had to constantly endure the pain. He gritted his teeth and his face became incomparably hideous because of the pain. Ah! Even with Xiao Chen's temperament, he couldn't bear this kind of intense pain and couldn't help but scream in agony. Under this kind of pain, Xiao Chen didn't notice that some changes were happening to his blood vessels. His blood and meridians, which were originally no different from ordinary people, were now gradually completing a transformation. His meridians began to emit a jade-like white light, and his blood began to turn pale gold. He didn't know how long the transformation of his blood vessels took. Anyway, Xiao Chen felt as though he had taken a trip to hell. His entire body was already drenched in sweat. After the intense pain slowly subsided, Xiao Chen was still lying on the ground, gasping for air. During that period of time, Xiao Chen even had difficulty breathing. At this moment, he was greedily breathing and enjoying the refreshing feeling brought by the fresh air. After resting for a full 15 minutes, Xiao Chen struggled to sit up and couldn't help but curse. Damn, I almost thought I was going to die. Indeed, Xiao Chen really thought that he was going to die. After cursing silently, Xiao Chen finally paid attention to his own body. Just now, when the 4 sacred beast statues shattered, they turned into 4-colored light and entered his body. It was because of these 4-colored light that he was in so much pain that he wished he was dead. When Xiao Chen looked inside his body, he was immediately stunned. What's going on? The blood vessels in his body actually. His meridians were crystal clear like jade, and his blood had turned from bright red to gold. Moreover, along with the changes in his meridians and blood, Xiao Chen seemed to feel a kind of bloodline power similar to that of a monster beast. Are you kidding me? A human being actually has the bloodline power? This is impossible. One must know that the reason why monster beasts were powerful was entirely because of the bloodline power. The bloodline power could be said to be hereditary. It was innate and could not be acquired or cultivated. However, human beings were different from monster beasts. The strength of human beings was obtained through continuous cultivation. No one had ever heard of a human being possessing the bloodline power. It was something that had never been heard of before, yet it was happening to Xiao Chen right now. The power of the bloodline that had seeped deep into his bones seemed to have been innate. At the same time, Xiao Chen clearly felt that his talents, physical body, soul, and other aspects had all undergone qualitative changes because of this experience. He couldn't figure it out at all. How could a human being possess the bloodline power? Are you kidding me? Or could it be that the 4-colored light contained the bloodline power of some monster beast? Then, it was inexplicably absorbed by him. So now I have the bloodline power of a monster beast in me? But this is also impossible. How can a human absorb the bloodline power of a monster beast? The two were naturally repelled by each other. The bloodline power that appeared out of thin air confused Xiao Chen. Of course, Xiao Chen didn't know that the bloodline power in his body wasn't the bloodline power of a monster beast. According to the orthodox saying, Xiao Chen's current situation was a bloodline atavism. Xiao Chen was very confused. After a long while, he still couldn't calm down. However, at this moment, the same purple light door appeared in the center of the tomb. Xiao Chen was awakened by the appearance of the purple light door. He temporarily suppressed the doubts in his heart and muttered to himself as he looked at the purple light door. Is this the exit? He wasn't sure if this purple light door was the exit. At the same time, with the appearance of the purple light door, the entire underground tomb seemed to have undergone some changes. It was as if a place that had been sealed was finally opened up for some reason and could be connected to the outside world. Xiao Chen frowned slightly. He wanted to figure out the secret of this underground tomb. However, after thinking about it, Xiao Chen still decided to find the exit first. As for the rest, he could think about it later. With this thought, Xiao Chen walked directly into the purple light door. Seeking collection, recommendation, monthly votes. You're tuning into the Mythic Realms YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.